Don't mute me, guys. Just roll with it.
What up, people? You are live and direct on Petty Sportz, the podcast brought to you by King's Broadcasting Studios. It's your boy, the host, Mr. Famous Fees. They call me Facts. Adam, what's popping tonight?
Man, what's going on, brother? You already know what time it is. About to be one hell of a show. Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern time. Petty Sportz. Guys, you already know what time it is. Get up in the chat with us. We got a lot coming up on the slate tonight. Get at us in the chat. Let us know what's happening. Fees, take it away for the slate, brother.
Hey, man, we covering everything tonight, man. We starting this thing off with a little bit of NFL football because, you know, we talk about football every day. But we got some golf in this thing. Got a little soccer action. We going back to the college football scene. A little NBA action. And we gotta bring back the combine segment. Tonight, we covering the NFL running back prospects. So definitely stay tuned. Keep your popcorn ready. Y'all know how it go. Go ahead and lock in, man. Like, we gonna start this thing out off the blocks with the hottest topic out right now. I'm sure by now everyone has heard Julian Edelman, former New England Patriots wide receiver, has announced his retirement. So now the question on everybody's mind is he a Hall of Famer?
This is, like you said, man, this is probably the hottest topic out right now. I mean, this is popping more than the NFL draft, which I feel like is crazy. But when you look at Julian Edelman, you know, and I'm going to just go ahead and address the white elephant in the room. He's a small white guy. He's under 6 foot. And I mean, he doesn't have a Pro Bowl. So everybody's going to look at that early on and say, okay, is he really the guy that we're going to have come into the Hall of Fame? Because, I mean, you look at Lynn Swann, like I mentioned, man, took him 14 years to get in there. You look at Steve Largent. I mean, I think he was the last receiver to make it back in, you know, the 90s or something, the last white receiver to actually make it to the NFL Hall of Fame. You know, one thing before we actually start digging into it is I don't feel like there's enough wide receivers in the Hall of Fame. I mean, you got, obviously, you know, Santonio Holmes isn't in there. You know, Hines Ward still isn't in there. There's no Reggie Wayne. Like, you got a lot of guys that need to be in the Hall of Fame, and that's been some of, you know, the anticipation for wanting to put. Uh-oh. I hear you twice. No, you're good, man. That's been a little bit of, you know, people are like, okay, if you put Julian in, then you're definitely going to have to put A, B, C, and D in. But I think it's really disrespectful to take the Hall of Fame away from a guy just because other people haven't made it. People are talking about Reggie Wayne, you know, Hines Ward, but didn't Hines Ward play with Big Ben? And didn't Reggie Wayne play with Peyton Manning? So don't sit there and down on Julian Edelman because he played with the GOAT. He went out there, performed when he had to, and overall, he's one of the greatest postseason receivers of all time. And I totally understand he wasn't big, physical, flashy. You know, he wasn't going to be your textbook receiver that's going to go out there and people think, oh, he's a wide receiver one. He's going to be a game changer because, like I said, no Pro Bowls. And the guy really wasn't a force per se in the regular season. But one thing I will give him is let's not act like Tom Brady once Wes Welker left in 2012 that Julian Edelman was not his go-to guy. I mean, you look at all the clutch plays that Julian Edelman had to pull out. Every time it was, you know, you needed a third down or it was late in the game. If you're trailing, like Julian Edelman was the guy to go to because, you know, Gronkowski's probably going to be doubled. Gronkowski's going to catch anything you throw at him. So when it came down to it, it was time for Julian to put the money where his mouth was. And overall, you look at how he's second in postseason yards, second in postseason catches, but he's also second in 100-yard games in the postseason. And a lot of people glaze over that, but the guy was a producer overall in the postseason. There's no question about it. Top 5 in Super Bowl catches, top 5 in Super Bowl yards, and the only player to have 20-plus catches in the postseason, and he's done it 3 times. Only player. No Jerry Rice, no Randy Moss, none of those. The only player ever to do that. And the big thing is, you look at the Super Bowls that he won, like Super Bowl 49, he had the catch against the Seahawks that ended up turning out to be the game winner, you know, with a little over 2 minutes left. And then also Super Bowl 51 against the Falcons. Everybody knows the catch that he had, saving it, basically keeping the Patriots comeback alive. But the biggest thing is when you look at the last Super Bowl the Patriots were in and when they won against the Rams, earning the Super Bowl MVP, he's only one of 7 wide receivers to ever earn that accolade. And I just think it's super disrespectful to take it away from a guy like Julian Edelman, because you look at Tom Brady. We're all going to sit up here and put Tom Brady in the Hall of Fame first ballot, and I'm not calling for Edelman to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. But if he was Brady's number one guy, he won 3 Super Bowls with Brady, got Brady 5 Pro Bowlers in that stretch of his career, how can he not be in the Hall of Fame? And another thing that really gets to me is, I understand that you've got these guys in the past, they haven't made it to the Hall of Fame and you think they deserve it. But when the eras are so different and you look at what Julian Edelman was actually asked, every time he was called on, he performed. Every time he was called on in the postseason, he performed. Every time he was called on in the regular season, I know he wasn't your guy that was going to blow you away with 12, 13, 1,400 yards, but he was that clutch guy. He's got 3 Super Bowls, and to sit here and take it away from him just because other guys haven't made it in, don't discount him because of what he did well enough. I mean, do you agree with me, man? The discount that everyone's trying to bring on Julian, it's honestly disturbing because we're just acting like he wasn't one of the greatest postseason wide receivers ever. It just makes no sense to me.
It's strange how people approach the Julian Edelman situation, because whenever we talk about postseason and we talk about Hall of Famers, that is the measure. It's what you do in the playoffs.
Exactly.
You're like, oh, you were great in the regular season, but you never did anything in January or February, and that's where we dock you. He's one of those special situations where his body of work is basically all coming from the postseason.
Exactly.
And in the regular season, he does whatever you asked of him. I mean, he came into the league and was sitting behind Wes Welker.
Exactly.
He was the replacement that walked in there to take over for him. But he did more than just play wide receiver. We talk about all the rest of these guys like, oh, he doesn't deserve it because there was a Hines Ward, there was a Torrey Holt, there was a Santonio Holmes, whoever else it is that you want to actually name that's not currently in the Hall of Fame just yet.
Yep.
What else did they do? Like, Julian Edelman actually went out and played snaps as a DB. He ran back punts. He ran back kicks. His all-purpose yards, he's 3 yards shy of 10,000 all-purpose yards. You're only looking at his receiving stats. Yeah, receiving, he went for 68-22. All-purpose yards, he's right on the cusp of 10,000. He even passes. I mean, like, the dude he didn't throw that many, but for his career playing quarterback, because, he was a quarterback when he came out of college, he's 6 for 6. At 100%, 128, 1 touchdown, 158.3 rating, and he has a fumble return for a touchdown. It's like he's done everything. The man threw touchdowns. He has rushing touchdowns, plenty of receiving touchdowns, punt return touchdowns, forced fumbles, tackles. Like, the dude will do anything that you ask him. I mean, his stats aren't bad when you start comparing him to other Hall of Famers with their all-purpose yards. Like, here's just a short list of folks that he's got more all-purpose yards than that are already in the Hall of Fame. Y'all remember Gale Sayers?
Of course.
Maybe Bob Hayes, Fred Biletnikoff, the receiver guy that the award's named after. Terrell Davis, John Stallworth. Like, none of them have as many all-purpose yards as Julian Edelman. And that's just regular season. We didn't talk about the postseason. He already gave you where he sits in the postseason. Second in all-time receptions and yards, and it's actually not very close. Like, Jerry Rice has, 151. Edelman has 118. The next closest person that's active is Gronk, and he's only sitting at 93.
Yep.
And then you got Kelsey. Like, they're not going to catch him. I mean, Kelsey's probably the only one that has a chance to catch him. He's going to stay in second place in postseason receptions. Like, that's something that's not being moved. But even outside of that, he's 4th all-time in all-purpose yards in the playoffs.
Yep.
And really, that's only 4th just by a metric if they don't count passing yards in all-purpose. He had the 1 touchdown pass against Baltimore in 2014.
Right.
With the, I think he threw that touchdown to Danny Amendola. That's who it was to.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, if you add that one in, he's in 3rd because he's only in 4th by, 10 yards.
Right.
I think Franco Harris is ahead of him. He's got 11 yards on him. But just look at that list. I give you the top 7 all-purpose postseason players.
Yep.
Jerry Rice, Thurman Thomas, Franco Harris, Emmitt Smith, Marcus Allen, Tony Dorsett, all Hall of Famers. Julian Edelman is number 4 on this list. I mean, he does have an argument. I mean, he had 4 seasons where he finished in the top 10 in receptions.
Yep.
Another 4 where he was top 10 in yards per catch. He's the 2018 Super Bowl MVP. He is on 5 Super Bowl rosters. And mind you, of the 3 Super Bowl wins, those other 2, he didn't play in them.
Yep.
2011, he was on the team. He didn't play. They lost. 2017, he didn't play, and they lost. 2016, Gronk didn't play, but they won because Edelman did his thing in Super Bowl 51 against Atlanta.
Exactly.
So, like, when Edelman plays, they win. It's pretty much just like it's a fact. I mean, he's not a surefire first ballot Hall of Famer. It could take him 10 years to get in.
Right.
But he definitely is worthy of this discussion. People acting like there's no way we should even fathom saying Julian Edelman in the Hall of Fame are really missing the boat on this.
Right.
Postseason success is where you're judged.
Exactly.
We had a similar conversation some months back, last year, when Eli Manning retired. I mean, Eli did make 4 Pro Bowls, but for the most part, Eli's career is extremely underwhelming outside of 2007 and 2011.
Yep.
He's got those 2 crazy playoff runs, took them through the playoffs. When they get in the postseason, Eli is money. 2 Super Bowl MVPs. He's probably actually going first ballot, and a lot of people feel some kind of way about that. But it's about what you do in the postseason.
Yep.
I don't understand how we discredit how good Julian Edelman actually is.
I agree with you, brother. Here's another thing, too. So people like to compare him. You know, you hear a lot of Jerry Rice, Julian Edelman. Here goes some Super Bowl averages for you guys I think it's going to put it in perspective for a lot of people. We know the Super Bowl is where you have to play your best. You have to step up to the plate. You have to be that guy in that moment to take your team to victory. And like I said, all 3 Super Bowl rings that Julian Edelman has, he made plays in every single game. Julian Edelman's been in 5 Super Bowls, but he's won 3. In the 3 that he has won, 8 catches for 112, no touchdowns, but go figure, the Patriots were still winning it. Well, obviously he had the 1 touchdown against Seattle.
Yeah.
But then you look at Jerry Rice's Super Bowl averages. 8 catches as well for 147 yards, and he was averaging 2 touchdowns a Super Bowl. We know he had the couple with 3 touchdowns, and Jerry Rice absolutely erupted in just about every Super Bowl he was in. But the fact that he played, won 1 less Super Bowl and still has close to those averages, how can you not hold him up to say he at least deserves some sort of recognition? And going back to just the discredit of him, the game is so different. Like, look back when Jerry Rice played and look to Julian Edelman playing now. The league is so pass happy. The league is so quarterback protected, and the league is so offensively kicked up. You've got more games, like I said, more rules that are in place. So it's hard to really truly compare, okay, we're going to take Jerry Rice and Julian Edelman and try to hold them in the same conversation, because they're not. But they are in the same conversation when it comes to the postseason, and I think Julian Edelman needs his respect. I think it's absolutely mind-blowing that people think he doesn't even deserve to sniff the Hall of Fame, because when you think of the Hall of Fame, it's either what you did in the postseason when it mattered, or you were an absolute baller in the regular season, i.e. Calvin Johnson, Larry Fitzgerald.
For a bad team.
Exactly, Larry Fitzgerald, guys of that nature. But are we going to discount him because he played with the GOAT? Like I said, Reggie Wayne, he had Peyton Manning. Hines Ward, obviously, he had Big Ben. And Torrey Holt had Kurt Warner for a few years. Like, let's not forget about that. If you're going to sit here and discount him, it just makes absolutely no sense. I don't understand it. Like I said, not first, second, or third. Like you said, it might take a decade for him to get in. But I think Julian Edelman deserves the nod because look what the guy did in the postseason. I mean, there's really no further we can go with it, man. The guy was a baller when it truly mattered. And if that doesn't say anything to you, then honestly, I don't know what does.
He's been the most reliable weapon Brady's had for years. And I wouldn't be surprised if he came out of retirement and came back in to play for Tampa before Brady and him leave.
Go over there with a little mentoring to Scotty Miller, maybe try to keep AB on his P's and Q's. I get you, man. I totally feel you there. I'm totally with you there.
Yeah, but it doesn't make any sense to disrespect a dude like that.
Right.
Like, anyone who is able to do that and come up that big on such a regular basis, because he's the exact same reason why I don't know any Patriot fans who like Wes Welker. It is not like Wes Welker actually was bad. He put up crazy numbers for the time that he was with us.
Yeah.
But that was because he was the slot receiver to Randy.
Right.
He was open the whole game. I could have put up numbers. You got Randy who's running a 4.2 40 that's about to take off 70 yards downfield.
Yep.
This little crossing route going to be open every time.
Mm-hmm.
But when we needed his one catch the most, he dropped all of them.
Right. Something that Julian Edelman did not do. And another thing, like, the narrative having Brady in New England, if you drop just a couple passes, whether it's a big moment or not, Brady will shy away from you. Brady will immediately shy away from you. So that's another thing that speaks to Julian Edelman's consistency. He was extremely consistent, because if Brady doesn't trust you, he's not going to look your way. And the fact that he was the go-to guy in all the clutch moments, the situations where you had to get a third down, we got to score here, we got to make something happen. If it wasn't going to Gronk, it was going to Julian Edelman. And like I said, 9 times out of 10, Gronk was doubled because the guy's a fridge on the field. Like, we know who Gronk is. Give the dude credit. He's got to be in. He doesn't have to be in the Hall of Fame, but the guy definitely deserves it. He deserves to be in Canton.
Yeah, I mean, for those arguing against it, y'all are like that. That's really just straight bias.
Sound the alarms. Buzzo alert.
It's got to be. It's like, man, come on, man. Like, you got to cut that dude some type of slack. It's disrespectful to act like as soon as he retired, everybody's winning. Like, oh, no way he's a Hall of Famer. It's like, yo, he like literally just retired 5 minutes ago.
And he's already got more spice in the conversation.
Y'all are just trashing him.
Right.
And it's totally unwarranted.
Yep. I think it's extremely disrespectful, because here's the thing. I personally believe that this was any other wide receiver in the same damn position, we would not be having this conversation. Like I said, I addressed the elephant in the room at the beginning. I'll go there again. I'm not trying to use race to drive everything, but he's a short, white wide receiver. He's not going to immediately look the part, and he's got no Pro Bowl, so you're immediately just going to want to toss him out. But dig into the guy's career, because what he truly did shows everything as to why he should be in Canton.
Oh, yeah, man. I mean, even for the folks that are like, oh, it was just all Tom Brady, you know, the most receiving yards Julian Edelman ever had in the game was 179, and you know when that was?
What is that?
Week 2 against the Seahawks with none other than Cam Newton as the quarterback. But they say it was all Tom.
Yeah, they say it was, wasn't it?
Little Edelman had the best game in his career numbers-wise,
right,
with Cam.
There you go. And that shows how reliable he is, because we're obviously not going to sit here and act like Cam Newton was any sort of force last year. Like, yeah, he had a good couple of weeks, but after the COVID and everything, we know that he fell off. But the fact that shows you a quarterback that's coming over and like, hey, I'll be your number one guy. I don't even know how you play, but I'll be here for you. I'll catch the passes for you. That shows how dedicated he is to the game, Julian Edelman.
Yeah, man. Y'all got to come up off of it. Julian Edelman for Hall of Fame, maybe in 10, 15 years. Because in 15 years, that would mean he actually waited 10, because he's not eligible now. Folks acting like we about to vote on him to go in August.
Sign him off.
It's not happening today.
It's up now. Happening now.
When the time comes, he should just definitely be discussed, and eventually, he should get in there.
Right. I'm there with you, brother. I'm right there with you.
It's crazy, man. Y'all leave that man alone. Mad because he beat your team.
That's what it is. We got a lot of them. We got some Falcons fans, some Seahawks fans, probably some Rams fans. It's all them. Yeah. All the teams that he did work on, that's the guys complaining around. Just be honest. Go ahead. Come out.
The whole AFC East.
Exactly. It's okay.
Pittsburgh.
Dolphins, Jets, Pittsburgh. It's fine. It's okay. Look, I'm a Saints fan. He's in my division now. So I'm putting up with what you had to. I get it. I get it. It's okay. You have to accept it. It's fine.
Man, we're going to shift gears on them. We taking it to golf, man. The 2021 Masters featured a brand new winner.
Yes, it did.
29-year-old Hideki Matsuyama got his first Masters win and became the first Japanese to win a major. I mean, that was a pretty awesome performance he put on. I mean, he came out the blocks blazing.
Yeah, he did.
I mean, he shot a 69 in the first round.
Yep.
Then turned it back around with a 71. It's like I didn't see the end of it. I was like, wait, he was actually above par in the final round.
Yep.
Like, that was actually kind of surprising. But, I mean, he finished minus 10. Yeah, one-stroke victory. I mean, hats off to him, because he actually had a pretty star-studded field. I mean, I don't even know who he was. I mean, I heard his name before, but I'm like, he's not.
Right. A Woods
I'm not picking him
Dustin
to get
Johnson, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, Spieth was in this tournament. He beat him. Phil Mickelson has been playing for 150 years. I don't know how he keeps making cuts. But he made the cut, though.
Lying. You are not lying about that.
Like, I swear Phil was playing before Tiger got there, and he's still there. I mean, Justin Rose couldn't get it done, and then you saw Brooks Koepka miss the cut, and so did Justin Day.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he had a star-studded field. I mean, he held his own. Like, I can't be mad at him at all. I mean, this was his first major win. He tied for second in the 2017 U.S. Open.
Exactly.
I mean, he's pretty much up and coming. I'm like, this could be the beginning of something, but we always think this when they get their first one, just like we thought Brooks Koepka was going to win everything.
Right.
And now we just looked at he missed the cut.
Exactly.
Like, golf is a finicky sport, man. Like, you get a dude to have one amazing weekend, and then they can't ever duplicate it.
Right.
So I know they had some extreme weather conditions out there on Sunday, too.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the thing about golf is like it's a lot like baseball. It's extremely tedious. Every little movement, every detail, everything about your club, just like in baseball with your bat, everything. I mean, it comes down to being extremely important in golf. And I think that's something that's hard to replicate. I mean, you think about it in baseball, how often do you see a guy that truly goes on an absolute tear and he's the best player in the league for 10, 15 years? Like, you don't see that in not baseball. And golf is one of those sports where you have to, it's a big mental sport because at the end of the day, yes, you just are hitting a ball down the field. You're not having to be as physical, but it actually does wear on your body in some instances. Like, you'll see guys going off of like the original drive on the first tee and they're actually like levitated by the time that they connect with that golf ball because that's how hard they're swinging and the torque is literally bringing them up off the ground. But like you said with Matsuyama, he was really clawing his way back into it. I mean, you look on average, not even on average, he was a pretty average golfer for 2021. He averaged about a 15th place finish, but then you look at some of them, he hadn't sniffed a top 10 at the Masters in 5 years before this win. So you could tell that he was really trying to chip back and get back into everything, coming in 30th at the Valero Open, missed the cut at the event before that. But this is a guy who's been clawing his way up the leaderboards, and now he finally got his spot at the Masters. 15 professional wins since he went pro in 2013, which, isn't terrible, but he hadn't won since July 2017 until, getting to the Masters. And more than anything, when this guy went pro in 2013, he absolutely crushed it coming in. Even when he was an amateur, he absolutely crushed it in 2010 and actually got invited to the Masters. And the crazy part about it is, being as young as he was, he almost didn't take that Masters invite because his country had actually went through a really bad earthquake at the time, and he contemplated passing up on the Masters to actually stay back home and just be with everybody in general. But I don't know what it necessarily was, but he decided to go to the Masters, decided to play because he wanted to lift his country up. He wanted to say, hey, like, there's still Japanese people out here who can effectively work and effectively make everything happen, especially in the game of golf. And him being out there after all of that was happening with his country, I think that really shows a lot of his character. And you don't see a lot of that because you'll see a lot of athletes, things will happen. It's okay, do I want to go back to my roots? Do I want to help out? But he made that decision to go and play. And even better is once he did win the Masters, he said, hey, I'm eyeing an Olympic title. Like, I want to go to the Olympics this year and I want to win. And I think he could personally do it because you look at when he won in 2010 at that Amateur Cup. That's where the 2021 Summer Olympics are being played for golf. That's where they're hosting it for. So he's got a lot of good mojo going into the title chase for the Olympic medal. And I think the guy can perfectly do it. I mean, he came out in the Masters. He looked locked in. But the big thing is he changed his putter on the last putt to win the Masters. And that takes guts, dude, because he literally ditched the long-time club that he had always used and was like, no, I need to go with this one. It's got a better grip. That takes guts on the biggest stage out there. You're totally confident telling your caddy, hey, let's switch it up in the nick of time. And that ended up winning him the Masters. So I think this guy shows a lot of heart, a lot of character, and I think he gained his spotlight at the perfect time. So hats off to Hideki Matsuyama, man.
Oh, yeah, he absolutely did. I mean, he came in and did his thing. I mean, really, he won the tournament on Saturday. That
he really did.
That 65 third round, I mean, that was it. He wouldn't have even been in position had he not played as well as he did on Saturday.
Exactly.
So, I mean, just that and, taking into account the fact that he came back there and then swapped the clubs for that final putt. Yep. It was like a perfect storm.
Right.
I mean, I would say that I wouldn't bet money on him to just come back and go on a tear. Mm-hmm. It seemed like it was a very perfectly set up run for him.
Right.
And that's not to say that he's not going to actually insert himself into this list of really great golfers right now.
Right.
So it's like you're going to have to actually worry about him and think about him, but I'm still not picking him to just go on a tear.
Right.
And y'all heard the alarm go off. It is absolutely 8:24 p.m., so we are one day after the 5-year anniversary of the very last game the Black Mamba played where he dropped 60 points on him.
Yes, he did.
Yes, man, count us down one time. We got to pay homage.
3, 2, 1.
Kobe!
You already know, baby. R.I.P. to the Mamba. Miss you every day, brother.
Yeah! Every day, man. All those memories popped up. I'm like, oh, man. Like, I remember exactly where I was the night that he played that last game against Utah.
Yep.
where he dropped to 60, because that was also the same night that the Golden State Warriors won the 73rd game.
Was it?
Yeah, it happened at the same time.
Wow.
Okay, that's another reason why everyone remembers where you were, because, I mean, like, that was 5 years ago. I know I didn't have 2 TVs in the living room at the time.
Right.
So I was at 10 Lizzie's. I'm like, yo, I need multiple screens so I can watch both. When I'm here,
history.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm here for Kobe, but these dudes might win their 73rd game. Like, I need that to be on another screen.
I agree with you, bro. I remember being in high school, walking through the hallways, and I remember talking to one of my good buddies, Caesar. He's like, man, tonight is Kobe's last game. And I said, I know, dude. I said, Kobe was, like, that's the first guy that actually that latched me on to the game of basketball, you know, like the mentality he brought, the play style, just their resilience to never give up and to keep ducking adversity to become one of the greatest players of all time, you know? So definitely an extremely Jordan-esque player. I loved watching Kobe, every bit of him, man. Every bit.
Oh, yeah, man. There's not enough I can say. I could take the next hour of the show if we were just going to talk about Kobe. But, man, when we bring this thing back, we're going to hit it off with the Atlanta United. It's time for a little bit of that Five Stripes actions. But before we do that, we got to pay a few bills. So Mike Beasy, take this thing away.
Yeah, appreciate that, Fees. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. You are tuned in to Petty Sportz Wednesday Night Edition, brought to you by Kings Broadcasting Studios. Big shouts out to Kings Broadcasting Studios, Petty Man over there doing what he do. We want to thank Famous Facts, Fees, and Adam for hanging out with us tonight, doing what they do every week, bringing that hot content, the latest and greatest on everything sports. You know what I'm talking about? Yo, appreciate you guys for tuning in. Could have been anywhere else in the world, but you right here with the crew making it do what it do. Please feel free to call in to that Petty Sports line at 678-871-9602. 678-871-9602. That's how you can be a part of the program tonight. Yes, call your friends, neighbors, co-workers, let them know, hey, it's on and popping like always. You know what I'm saying? Them guys totally in the zone. You see they drinking, they doing what they do. Totally fantabulous up there. They're my guys, right? So, yo, check us out on YouTube, Kings Broadcasting with a Z, Petty Sportz with a Z. Go subscribe to those pages so anytime these guys go hot, you will be notified so you can tune in live and direct. You know what I mean? No cap, baby. So, yo, like always, get at us. Go to kingsbroadcasting.com. Spend some money. Hit that donate button. No donation is too small. Definitely not too big. So get at us if you like the content, what they doing every week. You want to help keep bringing this great content forth. Yo, show some love with your dollars. You know what I'm saying? We see you out there in the chat room. We greatly appreciate it. You know what I'm saying? If you want to check out some of the older shows, we on Spotify. You know what I'm saying? We on iTunes. We all over the place, man. So go check us out. You know what I'm saying? Subscribe, share. Yo, we all we got. Support black businesses. Support black businesses. Cause we do ATL ho. Now back to the Ready Sketch program.
I love you, Mike. You're amazing, brother. Appreciate that. Guys, like he said, be sure to check us out, Kings Broadcasting Studio. If you want to really invest in a studio to get your career going, check these guys out. Gary, Mike, they're a great team. Call into the show, please, man. I miss hearing y'all on the show. Get up with us in the chat. Because give us something to really get us going, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, we got the topics tonight, but call up live. Put us on the spot. We'll put you on the spot. So, but Fees, let's go ahead and get to this next topic, man. So, the Five Stripes, Atlanta United, they did beat Alajuelense. I know you don't want to say that one. 1-0 for the second time. Great game. We absolutely dominated, and it's good to see the Five Stripes back. I mean, you got Martinez out there, and you've got all the guys. Like, we truly feel like a squad again compared to last year. Everything was so crooked. Everything felt extremely jagged. But seeing how we've only played 2 games now, do you feel like Atlanta has showed enough to say, okay, we're back, we're making another title run? This is going to be the year where we make it back. Do you think it's possible?
Oh, absolutely, man. Like, if you see the way that we controlled that last match, like, we played them the first time, it was 1-0. So, I mean, it was the same score both times, but if you didn't watch the match, you will know that it was a tale of 2 completely different matches.
Easily.
We came out on a 3-4-3 set this time and came out with a speed lineups. I mean, up in the front line, we had Moreno, Joseph, and Barco.
Right.
And, I mean, Joseph is really just out there trying to feel himself out. He finally actually started him this time, but they're not really expecting much out of him because he's still not looking like what we know him to be just yet. So nobody's even mad at him. But, I mean, we played so fast.
Right.
Did you watch the match? If you see the discrepancy in the possession, I mean, at one point, Atlanta United was like up 80% on a possession.
God.
I mean, it ended up being 67.
Right.
But early on in the match, it's like you could physically see it.
Right.
Every single ball, every kick, it's like whether we had control of it or not, we took from them.
Right.
It's like we pressed, we were going very fast. It was like full speed ahead. Like it definitely reminded us of how we looked when we had Tata. Because you remember last week, it was like it was starting to look reminiscent of Frank de Boer.
Right.
Like now, like he's pressing forward. The team looked really fast. And even in that, like I think the only reason that it was a 1-0 match is because all of these guys just aren't quite used to each other yet.
Exactly.
So with all of that speed, you still see they were missing some passes here or there on some opportunities where I felt like we could have scored far more goals. Like we could have won at least 3-0.
Right.
But all things being given, like there were 6 players that were not able to make the trip because of COVID.
Right.
For Alianza. They say, I get it one time.
Hello, Valense.
I give it to you one time. But even given that, it's like, okay, you got 6 guys that couldn't come, but we dominated like we were supposed to. It would have been an issue if they had come in here without players and they still gave us a run for our money.
Exactly.
And I mean, say it on a 1-0 match, acting like we blew them out does sound kind of crazy, but if you watched it, we had the ball the entire match.
Literally. Dominated.
It was an extremely dominating performance. I mean, even on that goal, we scored in the 91st minute.
Literally. Time to put it away.
We would have won if no one had scored anyway, but it was a nice fast break. Looked like Barco was trying to figure out in his head, like, I really want this goal for myself.
But I'll pass it out
He
to you.
didn't want to give it to Dom.
Right.
But I'm like, man, I like Dom, man. Like the young boy, Jurgen Dom, he's got footwork, man.
He does.
He's crossing folks up like he's Kyrie out there. When they subbed him in, I was like, yo, he's about to do some dirt.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, man, he get busy out there. Joseph gets back to his ways. We just like the only thing I think we need to figure out at this point is when are you going to give Rocco Rios Novo his contract?
Right. When are we going to actually ink the guy to a legit deal? Obviously, you saw him getting inked to play in the last game.
We gave him a second 4-day contract. I mean, he's on loan for Atlanta United too.
Right.
But we can only do that 4 times over the course of the season. So like you've wasted 2 of them in the course of a week. Like, man, Khan is still coming off of an off-season surgery. It's like, hey, I know we got Brad, but come on, man. Like, you actually don't have a backup.
Right.
This kid is 18 years old. He's proven now 2 matches, 0 goals given up. And it's not like it's been the rest of the team bailing him out.
Exactly.
He's been out there handling business.
Absolutely. You look at the first game he was in, he had like, what, 5 or 6 saves?
Yeah, 6 saves in his debut.
Exactly. Kept it to 0. And I wonder if there's a little bit of stipulations with him being so young, but I know soccer, I mean, you can basically come in at like any age. But if I had to think as to why they didn't expand him just yet before we get into, does he actually deserve a spot, which we know he does. I wonder if they were trying to get him through the quarterfinals to see, okay, is this kid, we brought him in lieu of the goalkeeper that got hurt. And then he plays well, gets us, a clean sheet, but then the next game gets us a clean sheet again. And he played well again. Yeah. I think now that we've gotten through the first round, we're into the quarterfinals. I think maybe they're saying, okay, Gabe Hines is going to say, all right, I see that this guy's got what it takes and he can perform in the big moments. I mean, there's no question about it. 18 years old, being called up because of a really unfortunate red card. Like, he wasn't expecting to play. And I'm sure after he saw that, he's like, well, I got to play after this? And he rose to the occasion. But like you were talking about Atlanta dominating time of possession, one thing I loved about this game, and I feel like I haven't seen this from United. I know the season last year was real odd, and it's probably just because I haven't seen them play this effective in a while. We were so aggressive, extremely aggressive, out shooting them 15-7 in the second half, shooting 9 times, but 5 of those being on target, going for the kill at the net. That's showing that these guys have the conviction to rebuild the chemistry, to bring the team back together, because last season was ugly. I mean, last season was really ugly. Yeah. Hell, we probably lost 80% of the fan base last year. Know how Atlanta is, man. I mean, seriously, the guys probably jumped ship a while ago. But we're here for it. Like you said, Dom, coming in at halftime and being so aggressive, leading all players with 2 shots, and had some good on-target shots as well, was able to move the ball effectively. So it was good to see that out of a guy just coming in at halftime. It showed that the aggression really went through everybody. It just wasn't with the people that were immediately starting like, hey, we'll bring you in and you got to play up to tempo. And I mean, if you can perform in moments like that, you're just going to be successful in your career. But Atlanta becoming just a second MLS team to go to 3 straight quarterfinals since 2008. It's pretty impressive. And I know it's a little scathed there because last season was pretty ugly and all this and that. But the fact that we've been able to stay consistent and get there, maybe not consistent, but at least keep some of that mojo there to move on. Now it's time to go back home to the stadium to show out even more and to push further in this CONCACAF because we need redemption. We were terrible last year, and we totally understand that was a COVID season. The true fans, man, like us, we're gonna understand what happens when things go like that. But now that we got everybody back, I mean, can you only imagine when Martinez is actually at full strength? Like, can you imagine what he's actually going to be able to do for us?
Yeah, I mean,
because we're doing this basically without a Joseph Martin. I mean, he's there, like you said, he's there to get acclimated.
The way we're pressing with him in the middle, and he's actually not even doing his thing.
Exactly.
Like once he starts acting like Joseph again, as he gets comfortable with his legs, and you have all the other wings playing like that, it's going to be ugly.
Right.
I mean, like, hopefully we'll unleash some of that on Saturday against Orlando in the actual MLS opener.
Yep.
But, I mean, they're going to get a nice little break anyway. So, I mean, the quarterfinals won't be until next, like, they get a week in between. So I think they won't play until probably the Tuesday or Wednesday after the home opener against Chicago on the 24th.
Right.
So I don't know what day that is, but it'll be later in the week.
Yep.
So, I mean, they'll get a little break in between then. If they win the quarterfinals, what is extremely odd to me is the semifinals actually don't start until August.
Huh?
Yeah, CONCACAF is stretched.
They're trying to rob us, bro.
You get the 2 quarterfinal matches. You don't come back until August. If you win CONCACAF, that championship will be on October 28th.
God.
Like, it's almost all the way back by the MLS playoffs. And the only reason it's not interfering with the playoffs is because the MLS regular season started late this year.
Right.
If it had started at the beginning of last month like it normally does, with the new format for the playoffs, it not being a 2-leg race, it's just straight sudden death, one match. Like last year, the MLS Cup was like in the beginning of November. Like
Right.
It would have been very close to
Right.
CONCACAF.
Yep.
And the way MLS is playing in CONCACAF right now, I mean, I know Atlanta United advanced, Philadelphia Union advanced.
Yep.
Well, actually, no, Philadelphia is playing.
I was about to say, aren't Saprissa?
Yeah, I got them mixed up. It's not Philadelphia, but we have so many teams in it right now.
Right.
I know who was playing. Toronto was playing earlier, like just before we went live. They just won, so they've advanced to the quarters as well.
Right, because they were 2-1 in like the 88th minute or something, right?
Yep.
There you go.
Yeah, there's another MLS team above us that won. I can't think of who it is.
They don't matter.
Portland. Portland, that's who it was. The Portland Timbers, they're also in the quarterfinals. Like, all the MLS teams are on their way in.
Right.
So, I mean, the way Columbus Crew has been playing, they're pretty much a lock. They're going to be in the quarterfinals. So it's looking like we're going to get all 5 MLS teams that qualify for CONCACAF to make it into the quarterfinal.
Yeah, dude. You got to love it. Let's talk about Rios Novo, man. Like you said, 2 4-day contracts. The kid's balling out. He's shown he can rise to the occasion. We mentioned how he came in lieu of the insane red card. I don't even understand how that happened. Because wasn't it a yellow at first, and then they upgraded it to a red?
Well, because it was real weak. I mean, it's like, okay, we understand that you had to throw something, but just the way it went down, it's like, man, It was a stupid pass by Barco in the first place to even make Guzan come out of the box like that.
Yeah.
But when he came out, he went for the ball. He slid. It's like, man, he didn't even actually clip his feet. Like, my man's feet hit Guzan's shoulder.
Right.
And he flipped over him. It's like, bruh, that is not red card worthy.
Right. Yeah.
And then they made us run with 10.
Yeah. We still won that match. We're still ducking it. You already know, man. What do you think, though? I guess let's get a little deeper than does he deserve a spot on the roster, because we know that. How should Atlanta, do you think, how should they approach him just being in the system overall? I mean, he's still an experiment right now. He's played 2 games. I mean, Atlanta probably didn't expect this guy to play this year. He's 18 years old, you know? So how do you think Atlanta's going to truly implement him into the team?
I mean, I'm not sure how much juggling they would have to do on the roster, but what I am very sure of is the fact that Alec Khan is still not recovered from the offseason surgery.
Right.
If you don't sign him, what are you going to do in the event that something actually happens to Brad Guzan, whether it's another red card or he sustains an injury?
Exactly.
We do know that we have a very capable backup or replacement for him.
Yep.
It's like, why would you not sign this 18-year-old kid?
Exactly.
Like, I don't care if you sign him and he sits on that bench for the next 3 years because Guzan he's got more juice in the tank. This kid can be your goalie for like the next 10, 15 years.
Yep.
Like, you got to hold on to him. He's only going to get better. If he's already this good
at 18,
you can't let a gym like that go.
I agree with you, man. I'm totally there with you. And I don't think we'll let him go. Like I said, I just think what Atlanta's been waiting to do is see if he's been able to rise to the occasion, and obviously he has. Like, the kid has absolutely balled out in his first 2 games. So I think I'm not exactly sure how we're going to implement him into the system, but I am very confident that he will be a solid piece of this team for the years and the seasons to come, man. So yep. I think Rios Novo is definitely going to be a guy that we can look forward to. He's going to be one of those bright spots. Like, maybe he's not going to be a Joseph, but maybe we'll get that same kind of rush through our veins, like, oh, wow, Rios Novo is finally with us, and when Martinez came in and he immediately started balling out the way he did, everybody got excited to go watch him. So we can just bring another player like that. I mean, we've got Barco, obviously, you had Dom in there, and then if you can get this kid solidified, just going to build the fan base up. I mean, it's just going to set us up for success more and more as it goes on. So,
and like, Barco's confidence looking like it's up. Like, he's playing real confident right now.
Exactly.
He's going for his shots. I mean, when Dom is in, he's playing straight speed ball. He's going for his. When Joseph is ready to be Joseph, it's going to be impossible for anybody to contain that. So, I mean, all we need for Rios Novo to do is what he's been doing.
Right.
If you can keep everyone in the nil category, that's all we want out of you.
Exactly.
Like,
you're doing your job.
You can effectively do what Brad's been doing.
Exactly.
I mean, hey, we got the chant for him. I can't give you the whole thing.
Right.
But just on the end of it, like, he's big, he's bad, he's a motherfucking wall. That's him.
Yep.
Well, he's big, he's bald, my bad. Somebody's probably looking at me like, that's not how it goes. Hey, I haven't been to a game since March 7th of 2020.
Oh, man.
We're getting rusty. We've been watch parties at the house, but we ain't chanting like that.
Right.
It's all right.
Right.
We'll be back on Saturday, and I'm gonna get right. My bad.
Right, and like you were saying with Guzan too, like, obviously with Rios Novo being 18, like, he's got all the potential in the world. He's got all the juice in the tank to be able to play a sustainable career. So I'm there with you, man. I think Rios Novo being implemented on the team is gonna be fantastic for United. But let's go ahead and segue to this, man. We saw a terrible injury. Flipping over to the NBA now. We're flipping y'all over, man. Go ahead and get ready. We're bringing the heat. Like you said, get your popcorn out. We're moving topics. The NBA. Jamal Murray. It was terrible to see. And you hate to see it because it's no contact. Final minute of the game. But overall, I mean, how does this truly affect Denver going forward? Because some people were saying they were the no-doubter in the West. I mean, they were writing off the Clippers, writing off the Lakers. Like, Denver was going to be that team. Considering Jokic, how Murray was playing, Aaron Gordon has been popping the top off that team. How does Denver proceed forward, filling the void that Jamal Murray left?
Man, that's actually a very, very tough situation. I mean, the torn ACL means he's got a minimum of 9 months out. I mean, he'd been playing great. His numbers were up. Like, he was having career highs in everything this season. And it's extremely unfortunate because, I mean, before this happened, Denver was definitely a heavyweight contender.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, whether you had them over the Lakers or over the Clippers, whichever, like, if you thought that Utah was going to stay there. I mean, we already saw that they beat the Clippers last year in the bubble when Jamal Murray went off, which that's who they're missing now.
Yep, there's a second best player behind Jokic.
Yeah, it's like Aaron Gordon is able to fill a void enough for the Nuggets to be about as good as they were last year.
Yeah.
Aaron Gordon coming in with Jamal Murray was enough to actually take them over the hump, and now they just slip right back under it as soon as they got over it.
It's like 3 steps forward and 5 steps back, man.
Yeah, I mean, that hurts, like, greatly. 'Cause, I mean, if you look at who they've got at point guard to back him up, you got Monte Morris in his 5th year.
Yep.
Not playing bad ball at all. I mean, 10 points, 2 rebounds a game, 3 assists a game. He's a serviceable backup. Then you got Campazzo.
Yep.
He's a rookie. I mean, he's not getting that many minutes. I mean, his points and rebounds, they don't really look like anything. They give you good minutes, but they're going to have to figure out who is going to be able to pick up their scoring and who they can bring in to actually facilitate this.
Yep.
I mean, you need more, like way more out of Michael Porter Jr. You're going to need Aaron Gordon to actually step up into the same form he was when he was out there in Orlando. I mean, he's going to have to figure out how to do that alongside of other star players. But outside of that, there's not that many people available. Unless they get someone via trade. I mean, you've got, like, Shabazz Napier out there.
God, do I remember that name from UConn.
They could sign Isaiah Thomas. He didn't get re-signed off his 10-day contract with the Pelicans.
Right.
I mean, he's definitely a spark. We're not comparing him to Jamal Murray, but when we're looking at trying to fill a void, he's definitely a reliable piece.
Right.
And he's available.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could even bring in Emmanuel Mudiay or even a I don't know if Jamal Crawford would fix what this void is because he's still definitely a six-man type of guy. But
easily.
There's still, I mean, there are options, but I don't think any of these options are enough to justify still having Denver in title contention. I mean, Vegas tells you the whole story. Their odds went from 16-1 to plus 3,000.
Yeah, dude.
They're like, nah, ain't happening.
Right. It absolutely showed in the numbers, too. And you hated to see this, like, when I originally brought the topic in, you hated to see it non-contact. You kind of wonder if he should have even been in the game at that point because it was the final minute of the game. But overall, it's tough to see because they just lost their second best player. And I feel like the reason, like you said, the reason the Nuggets were getting so good, like Murray and Jokic were already extremely well. Jokic is, I mean, he might be the best player in the NBA right now, honestly. Jokic is absolutely balling out. I know LeBron's hurt,
possible.
AD. Very, very, very possible. And then when you had Murray being able to compliment him, and when they ran that two-man game with Jokic and Murray, it was absolutely disgusting. Now you're bringing in Aaron Gordon, who has been nothing but positive. I mean, I don't think any fan, any reporter could say anything negative about what Aaron Gordon has truly done for the Nuggets. But a report did break when we were on the way to the studio today, man, and it spoke levels to me. NBA GMs are now genuinely concerned about the health of these players because only having 73 days off, I mean, think about it. LeBron, big star, hurt. AD, big star, hurt. Now you got Jamal Murray, up and coming star, hurt, and you're thinking about the bumper that these guys are having to push up against. And I mean, these guys are still human at the end of the day. Like, they can be freaks of nature and they can be super crazy athletes, but at the end, we're still all skin and bones. Like, we got the same thing going on. We still need the rest and we still need the time to recover so we can still be effective. So seeing that out of Murray, it's really tough. And you were mentioning, Morris and Campazzo, they can fill in and they'll still make Denver a tough out, but overall, they're not going to be Jamal Murray. Like you said, bringing in Aaron Gordon got them over that hump, but losing Murray, I mean, you can maybe even say they're lower than they were last year because he's the second best player on the team. Yeah. Like, Jamal Murray was really discovered in the bubble last year. He showed that he can put up 30, 40 plus if he needs to beat a team. He can be an elite scorer. He can run that two-man offense with Jokic. And overall, these guys were surging. They were up and coming, and you hate to see it because this team was really, you felt like they were right there. And they're just trying to get over it, but now they're immediately scaled back. But the big thing about Murray is he's known for his drive. He's known for his work ethic. And overall, people understand what he truly brings to the table for Denver. And it's likely that he could return physically at some point, next season. And I know you said the 9 months, but realistically, like when an athlete tears an ACL, it usually takes them about a year, maybe a year and a half, 18 months to truly trust their body, quit favoring the limb, and just say, hey, I've got my game, I've got my juice back to get back on the court and be effective. Because that's a lot of thing about injuries is you can physically feel great, but if you're not mentally confident or even physically confident, like, you're not going to be able to step out there, And that's a big thing is Murray going to take enough time? Because you've seen stars before in the league where they go through these injuries and you don't feel like they take enough time to recover. And you don't want to see that out of Jamal Murray because he is an up-and-coming star in this league, and that would be a huge blow for Denver. Like, you already know they're banking for the next few years, but speaking of the next few years as well, they're going to have a decision to make because Aaron Gordon, they're going to have to decide, hey, do we want to keep him? Do we want to pay him? Or are we going to let him walk? And on the flip side, does Aaron Gordon want to stay? I think it would be smart for Aaron Gordon to stay. I think this is potentially a new height of his career. We mentioned a couple weeks ago on the show the way he's been able to transcend, build the jump shot. And then you've also got Porter Jr. His extension is going to be up. So when you're looking at the summer of 2022 for the Nuggets, it starts to get a little hazy. Like, you're starting to wonder, okay, they're going to be up against the luxury tax. They're going to be working with really tight money. Jokic is staying. Murray's staying. But after that, I mean, you got a lot to work out. And I think Gordon needs to be a guy that stays in Denver. He's going to keep them at a little bit of that higher level that they were at, but missing Murray, I honestly don't know if they're any better than they were last season at this point, following the injury.
They're definitely not. They have to keep Gordon.
Right.
I mean, it would be really sad if Denver lost any of these guys. They're just going to have to tough this thing out. I mean, if you look at where they're sitting right now, they're in fourth place in the West.
Such a competitive Western Conference.
They're a half game ahead of the Lakers.
Right.
I think in worst case, I mean, the team is still good. It's like they didn't just drop off the face of the planet. They're just not a contender.
Right.
So I think from where they currently sit, at worst, they'll drop to sixth place.
Yep.
I think the Lakers and the Blazers could pass them. I don't see the Mavs or the Grizzlies making it that far.
Right.
So at worst, they'll drop to sixth place, and they'll play whoever's sitting in third, which they'll probably lose. I don't think they beat the Clippers without Murray. They were down 3-1, and he went off.
He is one of the big reasons that they won that series. Like, he was truly the NBA world was immediately enlightened to Jamal Murray. As soon as that bubble happened, I mean, it's a huge loss for them. And I don't want this to be an instance to where this happens to Denver and then they just disappear off the map after this year because they're trying. I mean, look at Golden State. I know they had Curry and Clay got hurt, but this is Murray, who is your second best player. Like, barring another injury, you're kind of wondering, like, where would Denver be in the coming seasons? Because these guys got to recover. They got to get back on the court. And I mean, if you don't have your best players, you're not going to make a run. Lakers, Clippers, Suns are turning up. You got the Jazz. The West is extremely competitive. And I think more than anything with the Jamal Murray injury, it immediately blows the West right back wide open. Like when you had LeBron and AD going, I was like, okay, now we're kind of open. Jamal Murray out, boom. It's all up for grabs again. Like, yeah, you've got the Jazz and you've got the Suns playing very well. But you look, you look at the records overall, it's like, this is still anybody's game. This is still anybody's conference. Anybody can represent the West in these upcoming finals. So it's definitely going to be something to keep your eye on, because I don't want, like I said, I don't want Denver to be that team that just fades away because of this one, because we've seen it happen. We've seen a superstar get hurt on an NBA team, and the NBA is such a star-driven league. And I feel like Denver has come a really long way. Like, they have gained a lot of respect here within the last few seasons. Yeah. And Jokic just absolutely turned. And it felt like out of nowhere, Jokic was just like, boom, like, I'm going to be this player. We knew he was always special. But how fast he transcended into being elite, he's elite. There's no question about that. How quickly he was able to get there, they earned the respect a lot, and I want to see them be able to keep that, because I'm a big fan of what Denver's trying to build right now, you know, and I don't want to see that diminish, especially when they're just now starting to really get the foundation of it going, you know?
And they pretty much have a young team. So, I mean, if they can keep them together, then it should be good. I mean, 9 months sounds like that's kind of progressive, but I mean, the way that they're actually able to treat things now, like, it's getting a little different.
Right.
I mean, you saw Russell Westbrook had an ACL, and have you seen Russell Westbrook since then?
Exactly.
That was before all the triple-double averaging seasons.
Yep.
He's back to the same explosive guy.
They like bionically constructed him.
Yeah, it's like, you know, like if you go back like maybe 10 years or so, then you would think that, like, yeah, Adrian Peterson's probably the only story where you can remember someone coming back from an ACL and still being as explosive as they were, but I don't think that's the case anymore.
Right.
I mean, you see Paul George broke his leg and he came back, and even though he does turn into pandemic P in the playoffs, during the regular season, he's a killer. I mean, you saw he went off just what was it, last night or the night before?
Right.
I mean, when the Clippers played, but he be killing in the regular season.
Right. And I love that you brought up Paul George, because, like, I feel like and obviously, like, if you break a leg, you're probably going to never be the same human being. But the ACL for Jamal Murray, such a young budding star, you don't want to see that injury really define the rest of his career. I mean, who knows if he's going to come back the same? Who knows what type of player he's going to be? Is he going to be as confident? Can he still run the offense? Because that's a very heavy workload, being the point guard of an NBA team. Like, you are the general. And in between him and Jokic, like, Jokic can supplement because he can actually run the floor pretty well, and he's probably the best passing big man, one of the best we've ever seen. So I don't want this to be something that immediately scales back from his career, because it would be really tragic to see, man. I would hate to see this happen for them.
Yeah, man, I think he's got a legit shot at making his way back, like at least as close to form as what he can, just for the mere fact that he's a shooter.
Right.
Like, if your whole game was based off of athleticism, then it's really tough, because that's what you rely on.
Right.
He was a good shooter in the first place, so when he comes back, the shot's not going anywhere.
Right.
I mean, it's surprising that Westbrook was able to do it, because he's not a shooter. Exactly. And he was able to come back and still do dirt.
He's an awful shooter.
But it's like when you saw D Rose went out and came back, D Rose was not a shooter. He had to completely change his game and retool everything about his game.
I remember with D Rose, he had did he suffer 3 or 4 straight injuries? Like, they had to kick in the NBA insurance because he was getting hurt so much. Like, they were having to take money back from him, pulling it out of his contract. And yeah, you don't want to see that happen with another star, man.
No.
Definitely not.
I don't think we've seen anyone as injury prone as Derrick Rose since maybe Greg Oden.
Right. Right. You ain't lied about that, man.
He's probably worse because he never actually played.
Right.
At least D Rose did give us an MVP season.
Right. Youngest ever MVP. Absolute baller, bro. Before we get into the big break, though, man, I know everybody saw, going back to some football here, legendary running back Eddie George has been named Tennessee State's head coach. I like the move. I know Eddie George doesn't have have any coaching experience, but let's also not sit here and act like Tennessee State has been, do we even know who Tennessee State is? Realistically, they will probably be known now because of Eddie George. Do you think the hiring of him, despite having no coaching experience, do you think he could take this team to new heights? Even if it's not anything extravagant, do you think he can propel this team somewhat?
Oh, yeah. I mean, he can definitely, he can bring in better recruits.
Right.
He'll get them on the map. I mean,
Knowledge
it's
of the
essentially
game.
the same thing happened with Deion Sanders out of Jackson State.
Right.
Deion he didn't coach nowhere either.
Right.
You bring in guys like major NFL stars. I mean, Eddie George should be in the Hall of Fame. He probably will get there shortly. But that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah, don't get me started on
But
that.
for the purposes of what we're saying, Hall of Fame running back Eddie George, he is in the College Football Hall of Fame.
Right.
This is his first coaching job of any time, but he's already hired not a hire. He's got Jeff Fisher as his advisor.
Okay.
So, I mean, he's bringing in some elite NFL minds to help him with this project.
That's extremely going to supplement that program.
Yeah, I mean, playing in the Ohio Valley Conference is not like there's a whole bunch of monster teams there. He's got until September. They're opening up the season against Grambling for the Black College Hall of Fame Classic.
Right.
I think they'll be fine there. Last year, they were 2-5. They were 6th place in the Ohio Valley Conference, so it's not like he's got massive shoes to fill.
Right.
Like he took over some monster program.
Right.
I mean, Rod Reed was coaching there for 11 years.
Yeah, he
and
was.
went 58-60 in 11 seasons.
God.
I mean, they haven't had a winning season since 2017.
Yeah. At least Rod Reed was able to get them the title in 2013. I mean, I guess we can give him that,
Like the bar's not very high.
Right.
But I think what he does do is starts to open up this door. I mean, I do like what he's doing just for the same reason. You got Deion out there. Now you got Eddie George. If you can get other, superstar ex-NFL players to come and coach the HBCUs.
Exactly.
They start pulling in the recruits. Because you see Deion had one of the highest recruiting classes of an HBCU that we've ever seen. Eddie George, he's the man in Nashville.
Of course.
He never left. Even when he retired, he came back there. He's very prevalent in that area. He's going to be able to do a lot of recruiting. So now you're going to see schools like University of Tennessee and like the Kentucky schools and everybody around there, they're going to lose recruits.
Right.
Because folks will be like, nah, I'm going to go out here and jump on this Eddie George train, see what we got going on.
Exactly.
I mean, eventually these schools can really actually start to take off. And I really, really wish that they would keep the season in the spring.
Yeah.
They're getting ESPN time, their games are being televised, and it's not like folks won't watch HBCU football. I mean, I know about Tennessee State because I graduated from Savannah State.
Right.
So I know clearly who they are. But I don't watch those games in September, October when we've got major matchups between the Power 5 conferences going on.
Right.
If they kept the games there, they'd be way more visible. They probably get better TV contracts because of the fact that no one else is playing, and that would cut our football void by 2 months.
Can't have that happening. We cannot do that. Telling everybody right.
If we didn't have to stop watching football in February, but we get it all the way through April, and then it comes back in August, cut 2 months out of that.
Yeah.
I would be a huge proponent for that.
Yeah. I feel you, brother. Eddie George going over to Tennessee State, like you said, he's going to bring a new energy to that team because now you've got a former, like I said, a Hall of Famer, like we both said. We got a former star over there who's really going to bring a new, it feels like he's going to bring a new identity to this team potentially. Like he could be that guy that maybe propels them, not to extreme heights, but he'll at least put them on the map. Some, like you said, getting some ESPN time and having some of their stuff televised. But overall, the HBCUs are still really trying to get their respect. We talked about Rod Reed in 2013, when they went 10-4, won the last national championship. But you look at the last conference title, back in '99 with Lawrence Cole. It's been some time since these guys have actually been able to grab a hold of everything that's in front of them and truly not even dominate, but just be an above average team to get some winning games under their belt. And then you also look at 1972. That's a while back, I know, with John Merritt in the Pioneer Bowl. That was the last bowl game that they were actually, and I don't know, you got the national championship in 2013, but and it wasn't even a national championship, I think it was like the Black Historical National Championship or something like that. And I hate that we even have to dub it that way, but that's just how they put it, in the numbers and everything. But overall,
absolutely assured it.
Right. I think Eddie George is going to be able to bring a new energy, a new spice to this team because now he's going to have the knowledge. He has the experience. He understands the game. Probably, of course he understands the game more than anybody. He's played in the NFL, but he's going to be an advantage with Tennessee State that a lot of other teams don't have. And I'm not saying this guy's going to go immediately and skyrocket the program. He's going to go down and be one of the craziest coaches of all time. No, none of that. But you got to understand that bringing him into Tennessee State, the players and overall the community, they are really excited about this move. And we know about the no coaching experience, but when you're talking about the playing experience and what he has seen from his vision on the NFL field, I think it just immediately serves a lot of benefits to what this team's going to be able to do. So I like the hire, man. I like the hire a lot. I love to see former NFL stars transcend the game. Like, I'll be honest with you, I'm just waiting for Peyton Manning to get a coaching job. Like I said it after he retired, I was like, this guy needs to be a coach. He needs to go coach. He could coach in the NFL, take him to college, whatever it may be, because I think Peyton Manning's the smartest quarterback, the smartest player to ever play the game. Not saying he's the greatest of all time, but he is easily the smartest player to ever play the game. You put him with a coaching staff? Oh my God. I don't even know what could happen, man. I'm waiting for that day, though.
And my man Wes Davis just came in and said Rod Woodson is the DB coach.
Swear.
Like, oh, that's major.
For Tennessee State?
Yeah.
Let's go.
On staff with Eddie George. Like,
man. Wish it was Charles Woodson, but we love it. We love it.
So we're going to one up you. You got Dion, we got Rod Woodson, and Eddie George.
All right. We got you, brother. Watch. Now Dion's just going to go out and hire somebody. Like, oh, we needed this guy. We needed to bring him in. Yeah, we're going to bring in Palomalu. Like, what?
Right? Well, no, he won't bring in another DB because he's there.
Right.
He's going to bring in somebody for Eddie. I mean, like, oh, now Emmett's coaching.
Oh, God, yeah. Emmitt Smith. Deuce, pocket, rocket. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, like don't bring them all into the same spots and all y'all to get your own teams.
Yeah, because then you gotta have everybody bitching about, oh my God, they're raking in so much talent like the Lakers and the Nets. Whatever, dude. Whatever,
yeah,
man.
Like, they can come in there and breathe some life into these HBCU programs like that. I mean, initially we thought with all the recruits that Dion was getting that team would be good enough to actually contend with some of the major programs, which clearly that was not that's not the far from the truth.
Right.
It's like they still lack on the offensive and defensive line. They just don't have the size. The athletes just aren't the same, even when they brought in all the recruits. I mean, that's going to take time.
Right.
But as he opened that door, now I'm about to call him Eddie Jones. Now Eddie George is in there along with Rod Woodson. I mean, they can start bringing people on into Tennessee State. And we're going to anxiously await to see who our next major NFL star to take over an HBC program will be. I mean, I know Shannon Sharp mentioned it on air, saying y'all don't want to see me at Savannah State.
Oh God!
Like, man, if he wasn't on FS,
too.
Yeah, like we both Tiger alumni. So, I mean, if he wasn't on FS1, then that would be awesome for him to do it. But I don't see him leaving the table with Skip to do that.
No, he's too good with Skip. I would be if Shannon left Skip and Shannon, I would not watch. I wouldn't do it. I watch, all respect to Skip Bayless. He's one of the greatest broadcasters ever. Absolutely have a place in my heart for Skip Bayless, but I think Shannon Sharp is the juice of that show. Like, if Shannon left, we would just have to start watching the herd from 12 to 3, Eastern time here, just kind of fade off, Skip and Shannon. But hey, either way, man, that's how it happens, brother.
Even the only people you listen to and he ain't saying real words, and he do it on purpose. Like, Skip.
Skip. Oh, no, don't do that, Skip. Nah, see, there you go doing that right there. See, that's not right. I love Shannon. So he is my favorite broadcaster. Whether and I know it sounds crazy, whether he's with the facts or not, his energy and his comedy that he brings to the show would really make Skip and Shannon, bro.
Yeah, love it. So, Shannon, think about it. Come on back to Savannah.
Please. We'd love to have you.
Yeah, man. So, man, that'll take us to the top of the hour right there. It's time to make a move. Yo, so, man, we appreciate y'all for tuning in. We got a whole lot more topics for you, so, man, don't go anywhere. Stay on that dial. Mike Bell's going to bring us these good gifts. He's going to pay these bills, hit these sponsors. Come on back.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. You are tuned in to Petty Sportz, brought to you by Kings Broadcasting Studios. You tuned in watching Famous Facts Fees and my man Adam Lewis. You know what I'm saying? Share the show. Call your friends, neighbors, co-workers. Let them know these guys are always on at 8 till 10 every Wednesday. So check us out every week. Shouts out to Kings Broadcasting Studios. And shout out to everybody in the chat room over there. You know what I'm saying? We see y'all out there making your comments and so forth. Be brave enough to call in, good people, at 678-871-9602. 678-871-9602. That's how you can be a part of the show tonight. Go check us out on kingsbroadcasting.com. Listen to our radio station. Spend some money. Check out some of the merchandise, the t-shirts, the hoodies, the tumblers, the mugs. You know, we got all kind of stuff going on over there, and your Petty Sportz shirts, Petty Sportz hoodies, and so much more. Just go over there, donate, hit the donate button. It's at the very bottom of the home page. The very bottom of the home page on kingsbroadcasting.com with a Z. Hit that donate button, spend some money with your boys. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. So, like I always say, man, support black business, support black business, support black business. Cause we do. Yo, check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. You can always go back and listen to some of the previous shows, and as well on Facebook, Petty Sportz, Kings Broadcasting, or Petty Sportz on YouTube, or Kings Broadcasting on YouTube. And both of those are spelled with a Z at the end. So check us out. We greatly appreciate it, man. You could have been anywhere else in the world, but you right here with the crew making it do what it do. You know what I'm talking about? ATL, ho. And we out. Back to the regular scheduled program.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You were live and direct on Petty Sportz, the podcast, brought to you by Kings Broadcasting Studios. It's your boy, the host, Mr. Famous Fees. They call me Facts, baby. And I'm sitting here live with my man Adam. And I go, man, what's popping?
Man, you already know. Back for the top of the hour, the second hour of the show. We got a lot in this one, man. Hope you're all ready. We're chopping some great topics. Going to get into the running backs, like you said.
Yes.
And maybe a little surprise for the end. It's probably going to blow y'all away, but we might bring it to you. We'll see what happens. Fees, take us off, bro.
Possibly. I'll take it off straight off the cuff if we make it to that.
Right.
So, man, the short-handed Lakers handed the stacked Brooklyn Nets an L on Saturday night. So, I mean, but we all know what the situation is. There were plenty of players out. No LeBron, no AD, no Harden. What did we learn from this game? Did we learn more about the Lakers, or we learn more about the Nets?
I'm not necessarily sure if we learned more about one team than the other because, well, I'll put it this way. With the Lakers, we learned that they can be extremely resilient and they can call on their bench guys to win them a game. But also with the Nets, we learned that the chemistry is not there. We learned that only playing 2 out of the 3, I think, is going to show extremely in the playoffs. And this is why I said last week the Nets do not need Kevin Durant to win the title. And overall, you look at the Clippers last season when there was, they're great when they're healthy. They're great when they're healthy. Kawhi, Paul George, and I think it was like Patrick Beverly. Was that the 2 or the 3 that everybody was raving about? I know it was Kawhi and Paul George more than anything. They played less than 15 games together. I think they played 12 games actually specifically, and that showed against Denver in the bubble when they blew the 3-1 lead. And overall with the Nets, it makes you wonder, can they handle a physical team? Can they handle somebody that's really going to slow it down, that's really going to push them around, that's going to get you an Andre Drummond, that's going to get you big guys down low that are basically bullying you? And I mean, overall, the Nets just got extremely outplayed in this game. You look at how they shot from 3, 5 for 27 from downtown three-point land versus the Lakers were 19 for 34 from downtown, 56% from downtown. Anytime you shoot like that from 3, you're going to be able to win a game, especially by 25 points. The free throws were okay for Brooklyn. I mean, yes, they got to the line and they hit most of their shots, but they were really pushed around. They were extremely pushed around in that game. And it makes you wonder, are they going to be able to handle a physical team later on in the year? Because this is a potential finals matchup that we're looking at. Like, it's potentially going to come down to LeBron and Anthony Davis versus the big 3 with the Nets. And obviously, the Lakers have plenty of players as well that can supplement outside of LeBron and AD. But when you think about how big the Lakers are, how extremely tenured they are, all the veterans they have on the team, we know that there's veterans with Brooklyn as well, but I think the veteran leadership on the Lakers extremely outweighs the so-called, leadership you would have with the 3 big personalities with Brooklyn. I don't know if I'm confident in Brooklyn being able to play an extremely physical team, because if you get pushed around like that, if they basically take away your number one move to where you're having to cater to them now, you're having to understand how they play the game. It's not your court anymore. It was the Lakers' court all night, and the fact that they dominated the way that they did, I think it just extremely shows that if you get physical with Brooklyn, you could beat them, and you could maybe blow them out. No LeBron, no AD, and they beat them by 25. And of course, I'm going to be that guy that says, okay, what if AD and LeBron were playing? But they didn't have to worry about that because they weren't on the court and they smacked them out of the water. So I think this shows that A, the Lakers are extremely resilient, and B, that the Nets, if they get pushed around, if they get physical, they're not going to be able to last. And I think you have to be physical in the playoffs because we all know Harden waits for the whistle. Harden he waits for the whistle in the postseason, and they swallow it a lot. The refs are not going to sit there and immediately cater to you for every single play that you want. So it kind of makes you wonder, okay, is James Harden going to be out of the factor? Then you got to wonder, in general, is the big three going to be able to play together? Because they've only played, 7 games this year?
Yeah, with all three of them on the floor at the same time.
Exactly. That's not enough time to build your chemistry because we saw it last year with the Clippers. Clippers coming in, oh my God, when they're healthy, they're so good. But when are they healthy? When are they all on the court? That's something we're not seeing with Brooklyn. And I understand the play 2 off 3, then when the playoffs come around, okay, we'll play all 3. But is that going to happen? Are we really confident that's going to happen? I'm not sure about it. That game wasn't one of those where you're like, oh wow, like this really just swung my perspective for the Nets. But it was an outlier. It really was. And I think you really have to pay attention to this game.
I think what we got out of that game was we really just learned that the Lakers reserves actually have some fight in them. I don't think we learned very much about Brooklyn because we already knew what we saw with Brooklyn. We knew that James Harden is the driving force here, regardless of what other combination of players you have in. When he's not there, it's not the same team.
Right.
But even that being said, that game was a tale of two halves because they were not dominating them that way the entire game.
Right.
When Kyrie and Dennis Schroeder got into it with 9 minutes and 41 seconds left in the third quarter, it was 62 to 66.
Yep.
The game was tight.
Right.
I mean, Brooklyn had just gone on a run. They cut the lead. At one point, they had taken the lead.
Yep.
So, it had turned into a real game. So now you take Kyrie out of the game along with Dennis Schroeder.
Yep.
But now you're looking at KD just trying to kind of get his feet wet. Like, Kevin Durant is playing somewhat similar to like how Joseph Martinez is being worked back into the United lineup.
Right.
He's not being asked to carry that load at all.
Right.
Even when Kyrie went out, it's like, nope, I'm just going to sit here on the outside and shoot a couple threes and like, man, get me out of here. It's like they didn't really approach that game the same way that like the Lakers came was they really wanted that game.
Of course.
And after Kyrie left the game, it was not the same game any longer. Mm-hmm. It did not look like what all the final numbers give you.
Right.
And even that being said, it's like we all know we're looking at can the Nets stay healthy? It's like the Lakers ain't healthy either.
Exactly.
It's like once you get everyone on the floor, I think the stories will be different. And it's really going to be a testament to James Harden. Because I know a lot of times, just like you look at, he doesn't do the same thing in the playoffs as what he's able to accomplish in the regular season. He also he's never had a KD or a Kyrie on his side to where he actually doesn't have to shoulder the scoring load.
Exactly.
I mean, you get into the playoffs with Westbrook, they're like he might burn us for one game. We're stopping you.
Right.
They're not trusting Westbrook going off like that. You're going to let James Harden drop 15 dimes. Like, man, KD is never off.
Right.
He doesn't even shoot that much, but he's making the couple of shots that he takes.
Right.
I mean, he changes the entire dynamic, and I'm not really worried about the Nets behind this game at all for the fact that just because James Harden wasn't playing.
Yeah.
And I mean, if Kyrie had not gotten kicked out of that game, that's not to say they'd have won it, but it definitely wouldn't have been a 25-point game.
Right.
So, I mean, kudos to the Lakers for the backup stepping up.
Yep.
I mean, Drummond played a good game. The rest of the team, they showed up. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen Morris hit that many threes.
Right.
He generally can't shoot like that. So, like, they had an inspired second half.
Yep.
Like, they did it for Schroeder.
Yeah. You ain't lying about that one, man.
Even though he was highly unjustified in what happened there, they did it for him anyway.
Right. Yeah, I agree, man. I agree. And, like you were just saying, when you have those games in the season where people might overreact or they might underreact, like you said, with the stipulations of the game, you're not necessarily sure if this really does mean something. I know Harden wasn't there, and I know Kyrie got ejected, but I don't think they really tend to play to the physicality of the team because there's really no physicality with Brooklyn. I mean, we know that. And the Lakers are big. They'll push you around. They got a lot of bigs. They love their bigs. Frank Vogel has invested in his big men down low, and rightfully so. And I know they both weren't on the court, but when you're talking about, like, the reserves being able to play like that, it makes you wonder okay, like, we know that the Lakers can't win without AD and LeBron, but could they maybe go a little deeper than we truly think, given what those reserves just did? It's a good question to be at the table, man. So I'm right there with you.
I wouldn't bank on it. I mean, that's an outlier game.
Right.
You might get one game in the entire postseason where the reserves play like that. The rest of this is going to fall on LeBron, AD, and Drummond.
Yep.
they're going to have to bring it. Like if you're expecting that to happen,
right,
you're not going far.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, they don't need to bank on their reserves absolutely balling out. But it is a plus because it lets you know, okay, we do have guys out here that maybe if LeBron or AD need a rest, if they're not even hurt, but if they just need a rest, maybe they're a little tight in a quarter, we can bring these reserves in and know, hey, we can preserve a lead or at least try to chip into the deficit if we're in one. So I feel you there, man.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, Nets fans, simmer down. It's not that deep. Laker fans, simmer down. It's not that deep. Neither one of them showed us a whole lot there. Reserves are good. That's about it.
Yep.
So, we're going to shift gears to the greatest topic of all. The Petty Sportz NFL Running Back Combine has been brought to you by Fees and Adam.
You already know.
So we're going to break these 5 running backs down. We know there are clearly plenty more running backs, but these are our top 5 running backs. So we're going to run it from the bottom to the top. So we'll start with our number 5 running back. Who do you have sitting at number 5?
At my number 5 running back, man, it was kind of tough because you look at Chuba Hubbard and you look at Javonte Williams, and then you also see Trey Sermon as well. But I think if we're talking about the number 3 running back in this draft, a lot of people do have him, or excuse me, not the number 3, the number 5 running back in this draft. I think we got to go Chuba Hubbard. I like what Chuba Hubbard brings to the table. I know he's primarily used in the shotgun and pistol formations, but this guy is someone who can serve very well when he is asked to play in those positions. And you see how he runs with good tempo behind the line of scrimmage. He's able to find his blocks, and overall, he can get you a cut. He can, run real choppy at the line of scrimmage, but then once he sees his hole, he's going to be able to burst through it. And he's very good with his vision on the field. He's able to keep track of his defenders. He's able to anticipate when his holes might open up and overall how the overall play, is going to be on the field for him. But Chuba Hubbard, coming out of Oklahoma State, I mean, he brings a lot of fight in him. He brings a lot of juice to the table that he might not be a number 1 running back in the NFL, but if you bring him over to a team who needs a solid number 2, he could fill in for them. And I like Chuba Hubbard a lot, but when you're talking about the running back talent in this draft class, Trey Sermon, Najee Harris, Travis Etienne, Javonte Williams, he does have to fall at number 5 for him, but that's not taking anything away from him. He's still a very good running back, and I think he'll be able to supplement well at the next level. And he does do a good job of keeping his stride and length as well. Like I said, he's not going to overshoot himself behind the line of scrimmage, but once he sees that hole, he's immediately going to try to shoot up through the top for you. And those quick, choppy steps is really one thing that you see in his game, to where he sets himself up a lot, to where he's going to know, okay, it might not be there, but I'll be able to chop and shoot this way. So Chuba Hubbard in the NFL, I think he will be able to supplement to a team well. I just don't think he's a running back 1.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have Chuba at my number 5 spot as well for most of the same reasons. I mean, he's a really good zone offensive runner. Like, if they have schemes set up for him, then he can be successful that way. He has great breakaway speed.
Right.
He's a pretty decent blocker. He's a really patient runner.
Yep.
But just like what you were saying, I think he's a good complementary back. Like, if he goes to a team that has a power running back, like if he were to go to a Tennessee and actually be the guy to spell Derrick Henry, and you have someone like that to come in for him for the times that he's not in there.
Yep.
I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be that perfect a scenario, but somewhere where they already have a power back and they need the lightning to somebody's thunder to bring him in. He would fit perfect. He's not going to be a first-round guy.
Right.
I mean, I can see him dropping even like as far to the 3rd or even the 4th round.
Yep.
Somebody will pick him up. He's more than likely will end up going to a very good team, which increases the likelihood he can actually get somewhere that has a zone running scheme that fits his style. I mean, if he's the second guy, and I think he's really got a chance to be successful because he is also fighting off ankle injuries because he didn't play very much last year. He only played 7 games last season.
Yep.
I mean, his 2019 campaign is where he really did dirt. I mean,
Yep.
he went for over 2,000 yards and 21 touchdowns in 2019.
Yep.
Last year, 627 yards. I mean, it was a far cry from what he did, and that'll also drop his draft stock.
Absolutely.
I mean, if he had come out last year, if he had been able to, then he would have been much higher a prospect than what he is right now.
Right.
So I mean, he's ultimately going to be good. I mean, he's got crazy speed. He run a 4.48.
Right.
He's 6 foot 208, running a 4.48. If he can get to a spot where he don't have to be the man,
Right.
whether that's obviously in Tennessee, but I mean he'd be really good in Dallas.
Yep.
If he could be the other guy along with Zeke.
Maybe even in New York as well. Another guy next to Saquon.
Yeah, give Saquon a little break. That's
Yep.
another strong power runner. I mean, there are quite a few places where he could be successful, even in Baltimore behind J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah, you're not
You have
lying about that.
two young running backs with your quarterback that's blazing like that.
Yep.
Like, they really would never have to overwork anybody if they brought him in there.
I agree with you.
Yes, I mean, there are places for him to go, but he needs to go to the right situation. If he goes to the wrong place, then he's going to end up getting bounced around the league before he actually gets his opportunity.
Yeah, and you don't want to see that out of a guy like Chuba Hubbard because the way that he is able to play the game at the size that he's at too, because like he's not necessarily your ideal running back size, and he does have the speed as well, but the fact that he's able to be a patient running back, because I don't feel like you see a lot of patient running backs nowadays in college and even in the NFL. And like, yeah, you have the few, like, you know, the Saquons, the Zekes, the Alvin Kamara's, you know, the Christian McCaffreys, but those are the elite guys. To be able to see that out of him at a college level, to where he can understand his vision, to where he can understand the A, B, and C gap, wherever it may be for him. And I know I've said it multiple times, but his choppy steps at the line really set him up to just shoot through the hole, to really display that 4.45 speed. So I'm there with you, man. Chuba Hubbard, he will be a great number 2 option in the NFL.
Oh, absolutely. This is where we start to draw straws because I don't think we agree anymore. Who do you got at number 4?
At number 4 is going to be Trey Sermon for me for Ohio State. And it gets really close right here. And this is why we're going to be drawing straws, man. It gets so close. This entire running back draft class was loaded. I mean, you got Kylan Hill. You know, you got plenty of guys out there that could have made the cut. But when we're looking at Trey Sermon and in Ohio State, you know, his injury history does concern me. And maybe I should have put him back at 5. But what he brings, what I've seen out of the physicality of him, really makes me want to put him at the number 4 spot. And, you know, with the shoulder injury in the national championship game, that was really scary to see. And we know that dropped his draft stock, and a lot of NFL medical guys are going to be wondering, is he going to be able to sustain this? Because the shoulder is a big part of the running back. I mean, you're running guys over, taking the handoffs with the impact into your chest. I mean, they play a lot into the running game, but he is a zone scheme, you know, one cut style kind of back, but that worked for him. And he, you know, it feels like he could be an early down back in the NFL. You might not have to depend on him on your power backs, but he could serve you well in the screens. He could give you a good first and second down run. He can maybe run a swing route, or I mean, hell, maybe even play in the slot. The guy can run routes. He's not fantastic at it, but he does bring some dual threat capability to the table. And he's not as necessarily dynamic as the other backs that are in the NFL, or excuse me, not in the NFL, in college at the moment, but he does have enough speed to break off those bigger runs. And that is something that you want to see at the next level for a guy like Trey Sermon coming out of a program like Ohio State, to where it's again another situation where, is he going to be able to be an RB1? Because I don't think a team is going to draft him with the intentions of being an RB1 just because of the injury history. Is he going to be able to withstand the workload? And is this guy truly able to just put the team on his back and be that guy that can maybe give you, you know, 15, 20, 25 carries? And I know it sounds crazy to just say, wow, Adam, you're not going to give him 15 carries, but the shoulder injury concerns me. It really does, because the shoulders are a major part of the running back. But you got to talk about his ability to break tackles, the ability to have stiff arms, the ability to be able to just bounce off defenders, get through the hole, and just be so violent and so strong once the run gets started. And his power can work so well for him against defenders when he's actually out in the open field, or if he's even trying to bust through the line of scrimmage. And when you ask him to block maybe in the passing game, he shows the will and the potential, but he does need to improve in that aspect, because we did see him a few times maybe get blown past or just maybe blown over, you know, in Ohio State when he was next to Justin Fields. And you're going to need a running back that, hey, if I'm going to get you to run and I'm going to get you to catch the ball, I'm probably going to need to get you in there for some pass blocking as well, because the NFL is evolving every day. These running backs are extremely undervalued, but when you think about it, they're so undervalued, but they're so, like, people want to overappreciate them. Like, they want to sit there and say, okay, let's do this, 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 and this, but I'm going to pay you this. You know what? It just doesn't make any sense to me. So seeing Trey Sermon coming out of Ohio State, I think he can serve very well in the NFL. I don't know if he's an RB1 because of the injury history, and I know that's going to concern some people up at the next level.
Okay. Well, I mean, I don't have Trey at number 4. Mm-hmm. I'm going to give you Javonte Williams at number 4.
Man.
I mean, Javonte Williams is a good back. So, I mean, I'm not going to start with the bad things. Javonte has really, really good speed. I mean, he's strong. He runs good in traffic. He has, like, quick bursts of speed. And he, like you were saying about Chuba, he is a very patient runner. He almost puts you in a mindset of, like, a Le'Veon type of guy.
Right.
He's a really good blocker. He's decent out of the backfield and pass catching. So, I mean, Javonte is a really good prospect. I mean, if you look at his numbers He had a pretty good year last year. He went for 1,100 yards in 10 games. I mean, his average yards per carry are like through the roof because he's averaging 7.3 yards per touch.
Yep.
But then you have to take into perspective who he's playing against. If you look at where he was doing all this dirt, he destroyed Miami.
Yeah.
Like a lot of those teams in the ACC last year were ranked really high because the Big Ten and the Pac-12 waited so long to decide that they were going to play, and they never should have been ranked that high. North Carolina was absolutely one of them. Miami was another one of them.
I agree.
So, like, those opponents, their rankings weren't true, and it showed throughout the season. It's like those teams weren't that good.
Right.
He's out there doing dirt against mediocre competition. I mean, he didn't kill Notre Dame like that.
Oh, God, no, he didn't.
It's like Notre Dame was probably the best defense he saw all year, and
He struggled.
we didn't know where Javonte was at.
Exactly.
He got stuffed by them, but killed everyone else. And as a result of it, it's like I think he's a good running back. I mean, he's 5'10", 220. This is a big dude.
Oh, yeah.
He's running a 4.55, so he's got pretty decent speed. But I think he needs to go to the perfect situation. Like, he needs to go somewhere that has a good line
Right.
that will be able to facilitate that patient running in order for him to get going downhill.
Right.
Because, I mean, he's not quick enough just off the jump to where he's going to just hit the hole and explode through.
Right.
He would need to get somewhere like San Francisco, where they've got schemes that pretty much will, like, that'll work for almost any running back.
Right.
I mean, San Francisco is almost a team that's like, hey, any quarterback, any running back, any wide receiver, whoever goes there, you're going to excel.
Oh, yeah.
Just because of the way your system's set up.
Absolutely.
But, I mean, if he goes somewhere where he's being relied upon, like if Miami were to pick him and they're just handing him the ball and hoping that he can actually get some heat off of Tua,
Right.
it's not going to be a good look for Javonte or Tua.
Yeah.
He's going to have Tua stuck in third and longs, and he's going to throw picks, and they're going to throw both of them by the wayside.
Oh, man.
Yes, I mean, I think that the location is going to be everything for Javonte.
Right.
But I'm not feeling it. He's not getting my 3 spot.
I feel you, brother.
Yeah,
I
man.
feel
So
you.
we'll take one more space before we get a break. So who do you have ranked number 3 for your NFL running back combine?
Well, my number 3 is going to be Javonte Williams. I got 3 words for this guy. Broken tackle machine. 76 broken tackles on 157 carries, which is absolutely absurd. And Pro Football Focus actually puts him as the second best running back in this class, giving him a 96 rushing grade, which is a record in Pro Football Focus history. This guy's a bruiser. He's extremely elusive. His balance is top tier. And overall, he can be a game changer at the next level. The only thing that concerns me with him is that he did share the backfield with Michael Carter, who is another great running back in this draft as well. But it does concern me some for his workload in the NFL, because when you think about these rookie running backs coming in, like, I know he's not Ezekiel Elliott, but the fact that Zeke had 1,600 rushing yards as a rookie showed that, hey, Dallas believed that he was going to be the RB1 the moment he came in. And I know we're talking about, multiple guys that are maybe an RB2 and RB3, but realistically, I think we're only talking about 2 elite running backs in this draft. And we know who they are once we come back from the break. But Javonte Williams is an absolute broken tackle machine. And when it comes to the workload as well, he only had 2 games where he was over 20 yards, or not over 20 yards a carry, over 20 carries a game. He was usually about a 15 carry a game guy. So when you get to the next level, 15 carries isn't going to be that RB1 spot. And also at the same time, you're not going to have to get 20 or 25 carries, but when you're talking about just fitting into a scheme with a team, I think they're going to need more than 15 carries out of you. And if we're talking about, like I said, being the RB1 position, I don't know if that screams that for Javonte Williams, because he hasn't had that workload put on him yet. And if he is truly the second best running back in this draft, like a lot of people think, which I don't think so. I mean, we're talking about Etienne and Harris here. If he's truly the second best running back in this draft, shouldn't he be an RB1 when he goes? And I don't think, it's not that I don't think he's capable of it. He just hasn't shown me that he's able to have the workload. And that is a little bit unfair to say, because he hasn't been offered the workload, but you still have to take that into consideration, because if you're going to want him to have that and he hasn't performed to that level yet, then it can honestly be a stupid pick for you. So not saying he's not a good player, but you have to understand that he was not always called upon at UNC. He did share that backfield with Michael Carter, so that is going to weigh in heavily to how he's used in the NFL, because I think he can extremely transcend at the next level, but it's going to be, can he handle that workload? We'll see, man. We'll absolutely see.
Oh, yeah, I hear you. At the 3 spot for me, that's where I have Trey Sermon. Trey Sermon played 8 games last season, went for 870 yards. He actually averaged more yards per carry than what Javonte Williams averaged, but he faced much tougher rush defenses.
Yep.
And those defenses were actually, they were catered to just stop the run because they knew he was going to run and they also knew Fields was going to run.
Exactly.
Like, everybody out here is running. So, I mean, at 7.5 yards per game, he was doing dirt. He had 12 receptions for 95 yards. And what stood out the most for me for Trey Sermon was the way he came through the home stretch of the season. It was very reminiscent of how Ezekiel Elliott came through and just, like, he went for, like, over 200 yards for 3 straight games through that national championship.
God.
Trey Sermon finished his career almost on that level. I mean, if he had been able to play and finish in that Bama game, that could have changed the complexion of the game if he was able to continue what he was doing.
Right.
This is the last 3 games he played in against Michigan State, 10 carries for 112 yards and a touchdown. Then he turned around against Northwestern in the Big 10 championship game, 29 carries, 331 yards, and 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, he had to carry Justin Fields in that
game,
unfortunately.
He destroyed them in that game.
Yep.
Then he turned around against Clemson in what was at that point the biggest game of the season.
Yep.
31 carries, 193 yards, one receiving touchdown. And if you remember, that is the same game where Justin Fields threw for 6 touchdowns against Clemson.
Oh, yeah.
He threw for 6 touchdowns, and yet somehow Trey Sermon was still able to get 31 carries and rush for 193 yards. It's like he shows up big time in the big games.
Yep.
He's a big back, 6'1", 215,
Yep.
running a 4.58. Like, that is good speed for a dude that size. He has a high running style, and he carries the ball similar to how Zeke carried it.
Right.
That's like an Ohio State thing.
Right.
But Ohio State backs, they've proven time and time again, when they send running backs to the NFL, they come in and they deliver. I mean, you look at what Zeke did. We just talked about Eddie George. There are a lot of Ohio State running backs that came into the NFL and continued just wreaking havoc on defenses when they got there. I don't think Trey Sermon will be any different. That is why I have him above Javonte Williams. I mean, he's got great open field vision. He's got a very, very strong stiff arm. I think he's going to be the 3rd best running back prospect. I think he could easily be a 2nd rounder.
Yeah.
That's where I would project him at.
Right. And like you said, with the Ohio State backs, you look at J.K. Dobbins as well coming into the league last year. He's going to be the RB1 for the Ravens already in his sophomore year. So That definitely speaks to what Ohio State produces in the running back game. I mean, like we said, Zeke, Eddie George, now you've got Sermon coming out, and I think he's going to be a good guy at the next level. I just don't know if he's going to be able to. I'm concerned about the injury history. I really am, because I mean, when you think about it, the average lifespan of an NFL player is like 5 years. You think about the average lifespan of a running back, it's like maybe 3 to 4. I mean, these guys are getting the piss beat out of them left and right, and if he's going to be in there potentially having an injury that's lingering with him, you just got to hope he's healthy by the time he completely gets to the draft, and he is truly 100% by day one. He's got to be.
But I think the one thing that the running backs have going in their favor is it's really seeming like the NFL is getting to a point where every team is having like 2 to 3 good backs.
Oh, yeah.
It's like nobody's having to just carry the entire load.
Right. It's not necessarily that bell cow back league anymore unless you're Derrick Henry, really.
Yeah, I mean, most people didn't think that he'd be able to continue on doing that. But even Tennessee is going to have to look at getting somebody to get him a break.
Right.
He can't keep doing that either.
Yep.
Yeah, man. So when we come back, we're going to give you our top 2 running backs for our Petty Sportz NFL Running Back Combine. One more time, Mike Beats. He's going to pay these bills for us. Keep it locked.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. Like always, every Wednesday from 8 to 10 to Petty Sportz, featuring Famous Facts Feeds, Adam Lewis, live and direct here from King's Broadcasting Studios, man. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. You could have been anywhere else in the world, but you're right here with us, man. We appreciate it. Do feel free to call in at 678-871-9602, 678-871-9602. That's how you can be a part of the show tonight. With your comments, we can, get back at you live and direct that way. You know what I'm saying? So go to kingsbroadcasting.com, spend some money, and get you some tumblers, get those Petty Sportz t-shirts, the Petty Sportz hoodies. They make great gifts, So check us out, man. We got the Petty Sportz. Man, just go over there. Go over there. Fuck with your boys. I mean, like the long way, for real, okay? You know what I mean? Shout out to everybody in the chat room. Thank you for everybody that shared the show tonight. We see you out there. We really appreciate it. Big shouts out to Kings Broadcasting Studios. Yeah, go to Petty Sportz on Kings Broadcasting page. Check us out on YouTube, Facebook, all that right there. Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Petty Sportz with a Z. Check out all the old content as well as the upcoming new content. After I think tonight's show will be on tomorrow, perhaps. So you'll be able to check it out while you're riding along. You can share it with your friends, all that good stuff, man. Go to Boxcast on your smart TV. Type in Kings Broadcasting. You can watch us on the big screen TV in your man cave or your she shed over there. You know what I'm saying? In front of everybody. If you're having a big shindig or whatever going on. If you have a smart TV, Fire Stick TV, Apple TV, all that right there, man, check us out on Boxcast. It's a free app. Download it now. So next time we go hot, you can look at us and check us out like that, man. So we greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Support black business. Support black business. Support black business. Because we do. Hey, hit them thumbs up, them hearts and emojis. You know what I'm saying? If you really, really fuck with us. All right? ATL, ho.
Yes, sir. We back hot and heavy with the last two running backs in the running back combine. We just going to jump right into it. Who do you have at number 2?
Man, deciding between the 2 and the 1 when it came down to this was really, really tough. But I have to put Najee Harris at number 2 because he's not as effective in the passing game as the obvious number 1, who's going to be Travis Etienne. Now, Najee Harris is a very strong back in this draft. He's got the best hands. He can provide a good bit for you in the dual threat game, but I don't feel like he truly brings to the table what Travis Etienne actually does. Najee Harris can explode through the hole, though. He can absolutely take the top off of a defense. He might not be your home run hitter, but if you let him get the hole, he's probably going to run over the first 3-4 guys that come his way because he's extremely hard to break down. He's got all the fight in the world. And at the end of the day, I mean, we are talking about an Alabama running back here. We're talking about a college that's put out some of the best running backs that we've seen recently. And now we've got another guy like Najee Harris coming up. What he's truly going to be able to provide for an NFL team. This is one of the 2 that I think is a surefire RB1 when he goes to the NFL. He will be called on as a rookie. He will be tried early and often. And I even think potentially with a average offensive line that he can make these things happen. I know he was playing behind all NFL, prospects at Alabama on the offensive line. But when you see how he truly was able to run as hard as he was and all the yards after contact, how to when he got in the open field, you were wondering, okay, is this going to be a moment to where Najee Harris truly defines this play? Sometimes he did, sometimes he didn't. And that can be a little knock on him is he's not going to be your major home run hitter, but he can turn a play. He can turn nothing into something, I feel like. And overall, Najee Harris, when you see how he is, his play style from Alabama, it's so consistent with the guys that come out, and he's just another elite guy coming out of college to where he could be an RB1 going into the NFL. So Najee Harris is going to be my number 2. This guy brings a lot to the table, and I can't wait to see what he does at the NFL level.
Seriously?
Yeah.
I'm disappointed.
I mean, look
you
at Etienne,
seriously
though.
picked him over Travis Etienne. Travis Etienne is at number 2 for me, and it wasn't an extremely difficult choice.
Yeah.
I mean, Etienne, he's balled out in his 4 years there. He's the all-time ACC leading rusher in yards. So, I mean, there's nothing to take away from him. He's got the breakaway speed, running a 4.45. Granted, Najee also runs a 4.45.
Right. There's a lot of quick
Just
backs
as much
in this
speed.
draft.
But, I mean, Etienne standing at 5'10", 205. I mean, he's got the speed. He's got really good balance. I mean, like, you've seen him on countless plays where he breaks a tackle, he'll spin off somebody, put a hand on the ground, keep his balance, just tiptoe the sideline. I mean, there are not a lot of bad things you can say about him. He's great in the passing game. He actually even returned some kicks.
Yep.
So, I mean, Etienne does some of everything for you.
Right.
But what we also have seen is that he can get bottled up. It's like in the Notre Dame game when he had 12 carries for about 28 yards.
Ooh.
I mean, we know Trevor Lawrence didn't play in that game, but his backup balled out.
Yep.
And Etienne got stuffed.
Yep.
He had a much better outing the next time when they played him in the ACC championship game with Lawrence out there. But that made it seem like it was really just more so because Lawrence knew when to check in and out of actual run plays or when to actually pass the ball.
Yep.
So, I mean, he did not get off at all without Trevor in front of him, and that could be like a small bit of a red flag. Like, wait, you can only do that when you have like the best quarterback prospect that we've seen in quite some time standing in front of you.
Right.
So, I mean, I think he is possibly a late first round pick type of talent, if not very early second round. He'll probably go in the first round. But I have him as a second running back. He's definitely not going ahead of Najee just for the couple of knocks that he has. And that's not even a big knock.
Right.
And he's got low usage, so he will actually still have juice in the tank. Even though he played 4 years, he was averaging less than 14 yards a carry for his higher tenure there.
Right.
So he'll come in something like what Zeke was and not overrun. That's usually the only real knock that you have on Alabama running backs is they run them into the ground before they go to the league.
Yep. That's true. That's true. I feel you there, man. What Najee is able to do overall at Alabama, I just don't feel like it surpasses Travis Etienne because, I mean, Travis Etienne is a true weapon right now. I mean, the fact that this guy played all 4 years when he easily could have went to the league after his sophomore season, but he chose to get better, and now here he goes to the NFL, and I think we're going to go ahead and get to our number one running back, right?
Oh, absolutely.
All right, man. So there's only one left. I know you just mentioned him, but Travis Etienne out of Clemson. This is Alvin Kamara 2.0. I mean, some people are maybe even talking about Saquon Barkley. I know Saquon's struggling with the health right now, but when you saw when Saquon was healthy, what he offered in both aspects of the game, and overall just a true power back, but he could also be quick around the edge for you as well. He can do it all realistically, Travis Etienne, from catching patches out of the backfield, which he led the nation in for running backs, 588 yards. He can effectively, but most importantly, efficiently and competently run routes like a receiver. You can put him in the slot if you need to. Obviously, he'll be coming out of the backfield, maybe on a Texas, on a swing route, or whatever it may be. But Travis Etienne, he feels like the ultimate weapon at the running back position for this draft. I mean, clocked at a 4.4 back in March. We know the guy can move. He can block in the passing game. And I think he's the biggest playmaker in this draft. He is the biggest home run hitter in the NFL draft because we've seen it plenty of times. We've seen it to where he might be running a little laterally behind the line, but as soon as he sees that hole, boom, he's taking off to the house. He's going to try to take it for a touchdown. And you look at 2018, 2019, that really showed us who he was able to be in some of those best seasons in his career, you know, back-to-back 1,600 yard rushing seasons, but then also including an over 2,000 all-purpose yard season in 2019. But when you look at how Etienne has been able to stay so hungry ever since his freshman year, he had 12 catches. Well, we'll talk about his sophomore year, rather. 12 catches for 78 yards in his sophomore year. He went to camp the next season and told the Clemson coaching staff, hey, I want to be more in tune with the passing game. I want to offer more in the passing game. Please get me my reps. Let me be able to step up to the plate and show you that I can catch these screens. You can put me in the slot if you need to. You can have me run these Texas routes or these swings if it has to, because I can be that guy for you. And the fact that he was able the fact that he had that mentality early on to go to his coaches, because you don't see that a lot out of young guys. Guys, you know, they might be, and I think Etienne's a first rounder, you know, like you said, maybe high second rounder at worst case, just because, you know, with all the talent that's flowing in this first round, quarterbacks, wide receivers, you know, offensive linemen, there's no telling where these running backs are truly going to land. But when you see that Etienne at a young age went to his coaches knowing that, hey, I still had a good sophomore season rushing for 1,600 yards, but I want to be even better. I want to go and add 400 plus yards for you in the passing game because I believe our team can be that much better. And you don't see that in a lot of players. I mean, we might, you know, talking about college, even at the NFL level, overall, I mean, even in sports, seeing guys being able to, hey, I know I'm good, but there's still plenty of improvement left for me. And when you see that out of a young talent who's been balling all 4 years, he's been at Clemson, specifically in 2018, 2019, he was still a force in 2020 as well. I think Travis Etienne is going to be a surefire RB1. Like I said, Alvin Kamara 2.0. Compare him to a Saquon Barkley. Maybe even a Dalvin Cook if you want to. But I truly see an Alvin Kamara in him because of what he's able to offer on both aspects of the running and passing game. Travis Etienne is going to be my number one running back, brother.
Yeah, I'm definitely taking Najee Harris at number one. I mean, he is a surefire, easy choice as the best running back coming out of this draft. The dude is 6'2", 230, runs a 4.45 40. I mean, he has almost a Derrick Henry type stature.
Right.
And I mean, he's able to get it done in every aspect of the game. He has excellent field vision, He's an extremely strong back. He'll run over your linebacker, run over the DBs. I mean, he's very quick. He's really agile. I mean, he'll hit you with a spin move, a stiff arm, run you over, turn on the jets. He's extremely hard to tackle, and he's actually a very good pass catcher. I know, just like all the things that you were highlighting for Travis Etienne, Najee Harris had 43 receptions for 425 yards receiving this season, which is only 5 catches short of what Etienne had this season with all the rushing yards, because he had 1,466 yards rushing. He outrushed Etienne by 500 yards this season and was only 160 yards short of what he got in receiving. And he had 4 receiving touchdowns. So, I mean, all-purpose yards, that's total yards. He had 1,891 yards to Etienne's 1,500. 30 touchdowns to Etienne's 16. So, I mean, he blowing him out of the water on production on both sides. I mean, if you see the game against Florida in the SEC championship game. Dude had 178 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns, but another 5 catches for 67 yards and 3 more touchdowns receiving. I mean, he put up 5 touchdowns in that game and didn't just do it all on the ground. I mean, there's really nothing that Najee can't do. I mean, if you just need any point of reference, if you see what Alabama's been putting out lately, I mean, you've got your Derrick Henry. You see Josh Jacobs is killing it right now. I mean, you had a Mark Ingram that came in doing his thing before. I mean, there's countless Alabama running backs in the league. I mean, even Damian Harris had a breakout year for the Patriots last year, and that was just basically because they put him on ice. They didn't play him after they drafted him. As soon as they decided to play him, he started doing his thing, and he's more than likely going to be RB1 for New England next year. See, Kenyon Drake, he's doing dirt out there with Arizona. I think he just got traded, but I know he was with Arizona. Yeah, that's like I was trying to think where he went. I know he's not there anymore, but that's where he was last year. So, I mean, Alabama's got countless running backs that have come out, and a lot of these guys he was actually on the team with. I mean, he was definitely there with Harris and Jacobs. He might have been there. I don't think he was there with Derrick Henry. If he was like he might have been like a redshirt freshman in Derrick Henry's last year. But even that being said, they've pumped out so many backs, and all of them have panned out. It's like it's a sure thing. If you take the bell cow back from Alabama, he's going to come to your team and give you exactly what you saw in Nick Saban's offense. So, I mean, not a knock to Etienne. I don't think that he's even got the physical stature to be what Najee Harris is. It almost doesn't even matter which team gets Najee. He's going to come in and just bully people.
He is the true bell cow back of this draft. And, you know, you were just mentioning Etienne as well. It's like you don't even have a lot of knocks for Etienne or Najee Harris. I mean, you would potentially want Najee to be a bigger home run hitter, maybe be a little quicker, but he brings everything to the table that you truly want out of an RB1. And then the only knock on Etienne is it feels like he's always looking for the home run play. He's always trying to make the big play instead of just shooting up the gap for maybe 3 or 4 yards, living to see another day, you know, holding onto the ball. He's not turnover prone or anything, but the fact that he wants to get the home run ball every time, and that's not always going to be the case, but you know, both of these guys, I think they're the only 2 in this draft that are going to be a surefire RB1. And who knows? We could maybe see Williams or Trey Sermon, you know, go and be an RB1. I don't see it happening because, like I said, I think Harris and Etienne are easily the 2 best in this draft. And I think they're the only 2 RB1s coming out of this draft that can immediately supplement an NFL team. And not saying the others can't. I just think they'll be RB2s or maybe even another option. You never know. But with Harris and Etienne, you cannot go wrong.
Oh, absolutely not. But I'm definitely taking Harris over Etienne. Got to.
I feel you, man. It was a really tough decision for me. I sat there, and it was splitting hairs at the end of the day. I mean, realistically, I feel like the speed of Etienne and the fact that he is a bigger home run hitter than Najee, and you can argue that Najee's the same way. It's just when you see the tape and you see what they both done on the field, I just personally take Etienne. But it's going to be nice to see which one of these guys is truly going to transcend early on in the NFL, who they get drafted by. What is their rookie season going to look like? That is a RB1 battle I'm really excited about seeing, you know, in the coming year.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Najee played against definitely tougher defenses, too.
Right.
So to have been able to put up those kind of yards against stiffer competition week in and week out, definitely had to give him a nod for that.
Right.
I mean, they didn't play they didn't play Notre Dame. I was about to say that was maybe the year before.
Right.
They did play Notre Dame, though, and they cooked them.
Right.
It was like, man, he's just unstoppable. The dude is too big.
Yeah. I feel you, brother.
Yeah, man. So look, we got just enough time left to get this last topic in. I didn't think we were going to make it.
I know, man.
But I know this was one that you were excited about. Like, I'm going to let you run with it, and then I'm going to try my best to take it apart.
I love it, man. So, originally, I brought up, is Tim Tebow underrated in the NFL and college, wherever you want to look at it? But I feel like a better way to position this is, did Tim Tebow ever truly have a chance in the NFL? But we'll take it back to the college days. We know Tim Tebow was an absolute monster, Heisman winner, two-time national champion, qualified for the Heisman 3 of the 4 years he was in college. And the one thing that people really wanted to get on him for was everybody talked about the Tebowing. Everybody talked about how religious he was. And I feel like that truly took away from his NFL draft stock. You see him dropping to the bottom of the first round, going 25th overall, which isn't terrible, but I feel like he was ducked immediately from the jump, all because of the Tebowing, all because of his religion, and because this guy literally just wanted to give thanks and pay respect to his savior. There's nothing wrong about that. Let the guy live. Let him do his thing. Let him be Tim Tebow. Let him do the Tebowing. Let him have every bit of that. Then you bring him into Denver, and I'll read you off the NFL stats here because the NFL stats are gaudy. Below 50% completion, 17-9 touchdown to interception ratio. You've got a 75 passer rating, not even 2,500 yards passing, almost 1,000 yards rushing with 12 rushing touchdowns. And we know that Tebow was a dual threat guy coming out of college and going into the NFL. But when he got brought into Denver, first of all, I think he was better than Kyle Orton coming out of college as a rookie than Kyle Orton was currently at that time as a starter for Denver. But we're not there. We're not in the NFL. I saw the tape, but the coaches obviously saw something different. So he doesn't necessarily play in his first season. Second year, he comes in and he struggles with an offensive line that cannot help him. I mean, I think it was his first start. He was sacked like 7 times against Detroit, lost 45-10. Yeah. I mean, this guy was getting sacked 3, 4, 5 times a game. And that's another reason as to why I don't think he was truly given the best shot in the NFL. Still having the Tebowing stick with him, still having the people. And it was so unnecessary. Like, why was everybody so latched onto the fact that he took maybe 15 to, even if it was that long, 15 to 20 seconds to just take a knee and give thanks to the person he believed that was the reason that he was there. And I'm not trying to get all religious on y'all or anything, but the fact that the media will pick through this, and that, and it took away from Tebow. It took away from his draft stock. Let's take it even a little further as to why I think he deserved to still be in Denver, because you look how he was able to take Denver to the playoffs. You look how he won the overtime game in the playoffs with the pass to Demaryius Thomas. Absolutely one of the greatest overtime plays that we've ever seen. And Tim Tebow delivered that strike. Love how the dude was left-handed. I'm right there with you, bro. There's something about us left-handed guys. They don't like us. Tebow, Tua, Mike Vick was talked a lot about with, can he really push the ball down the field? So I understand that. But overall, Tim Tebow was not given a good, I just don't think he got a good hand dealt to him necessarily in the NFL, because then I know it's Peyton Manning that came back and they took a chance on Peyton Manning, and Peyton Manning did well, got them a Super Bowl, had a record-setting season. You're talking about Peyton Manning coming off of the neck injury. I wasn't even confident in Peyton Manning coming off of that neck injury. He had an early game where he threw like 3 picks against the Falcons early on, and he looked pretty ugly. Even got benched in the last season because he wasn't playing well. Then he eventually came back, got his wheels on him, and went and won the Super Bowl with the noodle arm with Von Miller and everybody holding it down for him. When you look at Tebow's career overall and you see how his adversity after adversity after adversity, and he still won the Heisman, and he's still placed in top 3 and he's still placed in the top, one of the top positions 3 out of the 4 years. And he was a national champion twice, and he was the 25th overall pick, and he did win you a game in the playoffs his first year as a starter. Not a lot of people do that. Not a lot of people do that at all. I mean, yeah, you've got Mahomes, but I mean, he's an anomaly. Like, Mahomes is a true great. We're comparing apples to oranges if we're bringing him into the conversation. But for a guy at a young age to come in, have his religion held over his head to the point where it was taking away from the true potential he had on the field. The dude had the arm. He could run. And yes, he did scale back. What are you talking about?
You say he had the arm?
Yeah, he had an arm. You act like he had a noodle. You act like he had a noodle arm. The guy could throw the rock.
To say you don't have an arm doesn't mean you have a noodle. I mean, you can't throw.
He could still throw the football. You act like he was out there struggling to pass the ball.
He was.
I mean, the completion percentage, yeah, but if we're talking about getting the ball to the receiver, he was able to do that.
Yeah, but he just couldn't get the ball to the receiver because he's highly inaccurate.
Oh, yeah, I understand about the inaccuracies of passer. We looked at the...
That means you still don't have an arm. It ain't got to be a noodle. You got a strong, inaccurate arm.
Okay, there you go. But we're just talking about the arm strength to be able to push the ball down the field. He was able to do that. The guy obviously had the legs. He was a strong, big runner. And Tim Tebow never truly got his full... I guess he just never got the chance. I mean, just putting it in layman's terms, he never truly got that full opportunity to be flying to where the media is not holding this BS over his head, because we know he was a baller. Tim Tebow is one of the greatest college quarterbacks ever. And I know when he went into the NFL, it was a real downturn from there. Everybody sees the numbers and everybody see how he extremely struggled, but the guy was not set up for success. And I think when you look at the Broncos team that was given to him with the line, he did the best he could. And then he was taken from him by Peyton Manning. Didn't see the field in his rookie year, which I understand that. It's not very customary. And there were a lot of questions about him with the fumbling, but the guy never truly got his chance. And that's where I got to stand on it, man. I still love Tim Tebow. I think he's one of the most underrated players in sports history, especially when it comes to the NFL.
Absolutely not. He's not underrated as an NFL player.
You know I got to
not even a little bit. I mean, as far as the college is concerned, no one can debate what he did while he was in college. He's one of the best college football players that we've ever seen. But as far as giving him credit for 2 championships, he was behind Chris Leak for 1. He got 1 championship, and he got the other one like Jimmy Garoppolo. We're not going to act like he took Florida to 2 championships, because he absolutely did not. But outside of that, we're not even going to jump on his college. He did his thing in college. He earned all of that. There's nothing bad to say about what he did while he was at the University of Florida. But we're looking at his time at Denver.
Yep.
In those games, I mean, he went 7-4, and everybody was Tebowing and thinking like, oh, this is just amazing. His best game was for 236 yards. He wasn't doing. He's winning games throwing for 120 yards. He won a game against the Chiefs where he threw for 69 yards.
Yep.
He's not. He was winning games, but that's because they brought in the same offense from Florida. They would just let him just hand the ball off, hoping the defense would do their thing. He did nothing impressive, and the reason why I don't feel sorry for him to think that he's supposed to have gotten a chance. I mean, do y'all remember dudes' names like Charlie Ward or a Pat White or a Terrell Pryor or any of the other black quarterbacks that were 1,000 times faster, that had 1,000 times better arms, that could have done what he was given the position to do and done it way better? That's the only thing that I actually will give Tebow credit for as an NFL player, is that when they brought that offense in from Florida in order to suit his actual skill set, from that point forward, NFL GMs, coaches finally decided that, oh, this type of offense actually does work in the NFL, and if I do it with a quarterback that actually has a better arm, that is faster, then I could be really successful doing it.
Right.
And I think he kind of ushered in the era of our actual mobile quarterbacks, even though he was nowhere close to the best mobile quarterback.
Oh, not at all.
I think he made it something that they would decide that they'd try.
Like a poor man left-handed Josh Allen.
Yeah. I mean, we looking at a dude like Braxton Miller switch to wide receiver.
Yeah.
I mean, Troy Smith got no chance.
Yeah.
There's so many guys that just kind of got washed because they were before Tebow.
Right.
If they had come in the league after him, they would have gotten their opportunity and their just due. So the fact that he didn't, don't feel sorry at all. He won that one game in the playoffs, and then what happened to him the next week? He went to Foxborough, threw for 136 yards, and got beat 45-10, never to return to the field as the starting quarterback again. Subsequently, they brought him into Foxborough, and then tried to make him a tight end. He should have played tight end. He could have replaced Aaron Hernandez, and then he would have actually had a little bit longer NFL career.
You know, I never thought about that. Tebow would have been one hell of a tight end. He had the size for it. I mean, he's huge guy.
Yeah, like I'm sure he could have done it. He could have blocked. I know he could catch. Then you could actually run a little option where you give him an end around. Then you could let him throw one.
Right.
Where he can do his little jump pass. Because, you know, that's all he's good at. If I jump and throw the ball 2 yards to you in the end zone, then I'm a great passer. Because that's what he did in that championship game with Chris Leak started. And some people, for some reason, seem to act like he won 2. He threw a 2-point conversion. That's it. It was 2 yards.
Right.
Like let's not act like he did something for real. So man, whichever side y'all are on, definitely chime in. Let us know if you think Tim Tebow was underrated or not. Absolutely or not from me. But man, we've reached the top of the hour. We appreciate y'all every single week for tuning in on Kings Broadcasting for another edition of Petty Sports. Y'all know how to find your boy. It's Famous Fees. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I'm on your YouTube, your Cash Apps. Famous Fees, all of it. Shoot them to me.
He's in the Cash App and all of it, man.
Hey.
Appreciate y'all tuning in tonight. This was Petty Sports every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Nowhere else but here on the channel or Kings Broadcasting as well. Be sure to check me out at What Offseason Sports Pod, SZN. Every platform, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, you name it, I'm there. Check the link in the bio. If you find me on social media, it's every bit of the content, including the show that I'm here on Wednesday. You know we love the show, guys. Get up in the chat. Start calling the show more. We want to get y'all in the show. We want to get y'all really involved. Be sure to check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Boxcast, everywhere. If you cannot find Petty Sports or King Broadcasting, it's because you're not looking. We're there. You just ain't looking for us. Appreciate y'all tuning in. It was a great show tonight. And Tim Tebow is still the most underrated quarterback in NFL history.
Perfect with the sound effect.
I love it, brother.
Rest in peace to DMX if y'all can still hear us out there.
Yeah, man, you already know. RIP to a great